Domenico? Still not hearing Domenico, please.
Yes, we're here.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Domenico. Yes, thank you, St. Lucia. WJC?
Pardon?
WJC?
Oh, did you mind?
Hearing WJC?
I'm officially registered.
Western Jamaica?
So when we register, we pay, but I'm still waiting on them to get something from them.
You haven't said anything?
Mm-hmm.
What's your name? It was all-
If you're getting the help, and they consider you to be registered.
Okay.
We're just trying to get some information from WJC before we start. So just give us a couple more seconds. Hopefully we'll get them soon.
Can you speak louder? It's okay.
Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. I think I wanted to start at 4 and we're just about 10 minutes or so behind. So I'm just going to welcome everyone to what I'm calling an orientation session. We have students from all the territories, and I'm not quite sure why Western Jamaica is not picking up, but we're going to begin nonetheless, and hopefully at some point they will join us, or certainly they will have the benefit of the recording to be able to address any sorts of questions that we may have. So let me say welcome to the second cohort of SBUS MAT students. My name is Marcia Rainford, and I wear hats this afternoon. I wear the hat of the Graduate Studies Coordinator for the School of Education here at Mona, and I also wear the hat of the Option Coordinator for the Science Education Program, MAT program. So that's who I am. In the room here at Mona, I have two other persons who I'd like to introduce you to. Well, I'm sure you know Craig already, Mr. Dixon, but I would like to introduce Mrs. Cynthia Megu-Ebanks, who is here from the technical side. That's Cynthia. She's here this afternoon to help us to ensure that we have all things organized. And we also have Ms. Chantal Moore, who is the English language coordinator.
Okay.
And she's one of the persons who was very instrumental in this particular program, as you'll soon hear as it unfolds. I saw Dr. Ahad earlier from Bermuda. I know she was there. Yes, she's waving, yes. I'm not sure if there's anyone else from any of the sites from Open Campus, or anybody from St. Lucia or Dominica, or do we only have students in the room? Difficulties?
Student.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so let me welcome everyone here this afternoon for this orientation session. It shouldn't be a long session. I've taken some time out of Dr. Tortello's class, and I want to thank her for allowing me to do that. We had to do this after the program had started because, as you'd have realized, we had lots of glitches, still sorting them out for registration. And so this afternoon I'm just going to take you briefly through some of what I call the essentials for this program and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. I have a class at 4 as well, so we can't be very long. I hope you can see the slides from the other sides. You are doing a program that you would have selected because you need professional qualification. I'm pretty sure that's the reason why you're here. Most of you, if not all of you, are practicing teachers, but you have not had the opportunity to do your professional certification. So this is what this program does. If you are not teaching at this time, there will be a time during the course of this program when you will be put in a school to teach, because it really is about teaching. All right, so this is the reason why you're doing this program. I should say that the Master of Arts in Teaching program has 2 parts to it. For the SVUS modality, we're offering only 1 part. That's part 1. So at the end of this program, what you will have achieved is the postgraduate certificate. Okay, your postgraduate diploma, not a certificate. Okay, so you're getting a postgraduate diploma in the teaching of whatever discipline you're here to teach. All right. Now, this year, in our 2nd year of the program, by now you'd have realized that we have an increased offering. We have 4 subjects this year, and what can I say? 3 times as many almost students in this cohort. Last year we started our pilot, we call it that. We had 3 territories: St. Lucia, Bermuda, and Jamaica. In Jamaica we had both WJC and Mona. And we offered math, English, and IT. This year we have added science. We wanted as well to offer history and modern foreign languages, but we were unable to offer that because of the numbers that we had. We hope that we will be able to do that for the next academic year. So this year we have these 4 disciplines: mathematics education, English language education, information technology education, and science education. Those are the disciplines we're offering for this cohort. Now, you are very familiar by now with the way we're offering it, but you have been, for the most part, you're familiar with the video conferencing modality. We will have some face-to-face sessions, we hope, for not just those of you who are in Mona or at Mona, but when we come to the summer sessions, not summer sessions, the sessions after summer, as we prepare for the practicum, we will have to have some face-to-face workshops. And we will do that. We have done that by territory prior to this. We perhaps will do something similar, or we will do some adaptation of it. We have not yet quite decided that. But you will have some face-to-face sessions, but for the most part, it's going to be video conferencing. As you have been experiencing this, the sessions are being recorded, and if you should miss a session, you should have the benefit of going back to that session. Now this year, we're trying to get them available shortly after the sessions, after the classes have been held. I'm not so sure how well that has been going. Maybe Craig and Cynthia can tell me how that has been going. But the idea is for you to have the video recordings so that you can have access to the information at the end of the session. Now, In terms of your program structure, the program has a total of 25 credits. So at the end of part 1, you'd have done 25 credits, and it's broken down like that in 3, perhaps you could call it 4 different sets of courses. You are doing a core education course at this time. That's with Dr. Tortello. That's when you see everybody in the same group. And you are doing a specialization course at this time. So you may be doing one in science or math or IT or English. So you have 2 such core courses. You have 4 specialization courses, and those come first. So you're going to be doing those courses in this semester and during the summer. At the end of the summer, which would now be September 2015, you will be placed in schools, or the other 2 courses will be done while you're in your institutions where you normally teach. And that's the practicum and the study, and that's supervised. And when I spoke to you earlier about the fact that we will have workshops, those workshops will support those 2 courses. There are 2 distinct courses, and you will get more on this by the middle end of the summer. Don't want to distress you about that yet, or to even distract you. Perhaps I should have used distract. But those 2 courses you will be given much more information on at that time. So you have your core education, your specialization, your practicum, and your research component. Those are the courses that make up this program. And as I have said, the core education course, 2 courses, amount to 7 credits, simply because one is worth 4 and one is worth 3. All the others are 3 credits to add up to your 25 credits in all. That's the structure. All right? Now, let me just slow down a bit here and talk a bit about the kind of support that we expect that you would be able to get for this program. I spoke earlier about options, and you are doing one of the 4 options, either mathematics, language education, science, or information technology. Each option has an option coordinator. So you would have met, if you're doing IT, your option coordinator already in Dr. Daly Morris. She's the option coordinator for IT. The option coordinator for language education is Mrs. Moore, as I had said earlier, and the option coordinator for mathematics currently is Dr. Jung, who is actually teaching at this time, and so he's not here. But Dr. Jung will not be around after May. And so I am going to double as the coordinator until we identify someone. I know who it's going to be, but the person has not been finalized. Okay? So I'm going to be doubling for science and mathematics, certainly until around the end of the semester. And then in the summer, you will have your own bona fide math coordinator. Now, the coordinator is just someone to whom you will address any concern related to your program. So if you have a problem with mathematics, then you would ask me about any information, anything that you think I could help you with. So I'm like your first point of call, that as it relates to an academic matter about your subject, your option. Okay? I am the first point of call. So if you're having a challenge with something related to your course, availability of resources, those sorts of issues, you speak to me first. All right? If it relates to mathematics or science. That's that level of coordination. I spoke about the workshops for the practicum, and that's another level of support that we will give you as you approach those 2 courses. Because those courses do not have sit-down taught sessions. All right? But we do support you through workshops, and that is done prior to your going out into the field. So we'll hear some more about that. You will be assigned supervisors while you're on the practicum, and their role will become clearer as we approach that time, and I advise you as to who they are and we talk about how you will work together. So you will not be out there on the field all on your lonesome, trying to just fend for yourselves. You will be assigned supervisors, and you will have more than one supervisor for a particular option, because we don't normally have one person doing 10 or 12 persons. All right, so you'll be assigned, and in your respective territories, here in Dominica or St. Lucia or Bermuda, we will normally identify persons from your home territory. All right? Another area of support is ORVLE, that is All Virtual Learning Environment. It is a, what is it, Cynthia? It's a
learning environment, online learning environment.
It's an online learning environment. I never got the state things right. That is available, will be available, let me just put it that way, for each course that you do. So, you're doing, what is it now, 50Z, ED, what's the course called? EDPH5001. 5001. You're doing 5001 now. There is on ORVLE, or should be on ORVLE, a course site for that course, where your lecturer will upload materials, will provide information, you'll be required to log in, and I know the problem with logging in and you don't have your IDs, and registration is linked to that. That's the official UWI requirement and facility for supporting your courses, right? That's the official one. Now, because of how this program has been developed and how it's been organized at this time, some of you are not yet fully registered, and the registration and approval process has been delayed in some cases. So what has happened is that Dr. Daly Morris has developed Google, tell me what it is.
She's using Google Space.
She's using Google Space. Okay, let me sound as if I know what I'm saying. She's using Google Space to provide a facility for ready information that you can you need.
She uploads the presentation, etc.
There. But essentially, when ORVLE is up and running, which we hope will be within another 2 weeks for everyone, that is where for each course you should get your course information. All right? And you will be given information as to how it is that you should log on and that sort of thing. Once you're properly registered as a student at UWI, you should not have a problem accessing ORVLE. Okay? And now, this MAT program is offered in the School of Education, by the School of Education, but the unit, okay, responsible is the MED Online. And in that, and so that is the reason why you are familiar with that. Now but there are several other units in the School of Education. MED Online has an office at the School of Education, and there you would have met Miss Kayla Mills. I'm sure if you have met no one else, you'd have met Kayla. Okay? And that office is responsible for all of the administrative activities related to your program. So timetable, ID, registration, approvals in terms of organizing for it, all of those things go there. All right? Now, so if you have a problem related to a particular course, of course your course lecturer is first point in call, then your option coordinator, okay? If you have an issue related to administrative matters, then you go directly to MED Online, okay? And the the admin assistant responsible is Ms. Kayla Mills, who, by the way, isn't here because she's ill. She's ill today. All right? So those are the sort of support systems. I'm not sure, Chantal, have I missed anybody, left anything out? No. All right? So that, I think, is what you want to bear in mind and we want to work with.
Oh, I can just add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, something since you're talking about support.
Yeah.
Let me just say. Right, since Dr. Rainford is on the topic of support, while you're at your site, each site is supposed to have IT support person. I know here you'll find Craig, and oftentimes in St. Lucia there's Miguel, Dominica, Lyle, and there could be other persons, and you have Dr. JC. If, oh, here it is. On those sides. Okay, if while you're there you experience any kind of technical matters, just say so quickly to your IT person that's there, and they'll be able to report it so that it can be addressed quickly. It's best is said to sometimes the IT person may be not on site. I think for Bermuda, sometimes the person may be in and out. But it's important that that person got that information, because we have a group, we call it a group chat, that once there's an issue on a site and they report it there, all the IT persons from the different sites, they're able to see the issue and be able to address it. Whether the issue is from your end or from our end, we can immediately work together to address the technical issue. But communication is really important. So as soon as there is any kind of problems with technology, you let your IT person know. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. All right, I'll soon give you a chance to ask questions, but just let me just complete here. I had mentioned this before. These are the coordinators, and let me spend some time on that. Now, what are the expectations? And let me just talk a little bit about this now. Now, this is as it is with any other graduate program, one designed to facilitate discussion, participation, and of course, a lot of independent work. Attendance is absolutely critical. No, don't get me wrong. There's no regulation that requires you to always be in attendance, but you recognize how important it is for these programs, because our courses in School of Education are really not so much lecture driven as it is discussion, and that's that sort of approach we use. So if you're not here, it becomes almost impossible to have a proper class. All right? So attendance, we're asking you please to try to be here, but more so, if you're not going to be here, I think you could get in touch with your lecturers, or certainly your peers, so that they can know what's happening. So I'm suggesting that a good network, that you create a network among yourselves. So if you're not going to be here, if you're ill, because you know we're all adults and we do have from time to time that we can't make it, but we just need to know what's happening. All right? I spoke to the matter of participation, and I just want to underscore that, because you may be doing group work, you may be doing individual work. We're in different locations. One of the things that we hope to do this year certainly is to perhaps have some participation across the different sites. So it's easy to have persons at Mona in one group and persons in St. Lucia in another group, but it would be such a difference to have groups combined in such a way that you have persons from different sites. That is something we want to work towards, and so we are expecting some amount of participation in that regard. And it will mean that you would have to have some sort of way of communicating with each other, even outside of the setting that you have to organize. I'm going to spend a little while on performance, because for those persons who are not new to Mona, you have not done a graduate course with us, you may not be familiar with the rules and regulations that speak to performance. I want to say that in order to pass any graduate course at UWI, you have to pass both components, coursework and exam components. You will not be considered to have successfully completed a course if you have not passed both components. Now, not all courses have an exam component. So if you have only coursework, then you have to pass all of your coursework pieces. And the pass mark is 50%. All right? So 50% is what you need to earn to successfully.
Repeat the pass mark, please.
50%. 50.
60.
50. Okay? I start there because you need to know that. Because if you do not pass a component, you may end up failing the course. You with me? Because for the graduate regulations, that's how it is organized. That's how it's set out. You must pass all components, coursework and exam. Okay, now the way coursework is organized, usually you may have let's say 5 pieces of coursework. All right? What we're required to do is to organize the 5 pieces into 2 sets. So you may have a minor piece and a major piece. Now your minor section may consist of two different pieces, and the major may consist of 3 different pieces. Or you may have coursework and exam. This varies, it will vary depending on the course. The point I'm making though is that you must pass the 2 together, that's 1, it's considered 1, and the 3 together considered 1. Alright? So you must pass both coursework and exam, or 2 parts of coursework, if you're going to get through the program. I must also say that another regulation that you need to bear in mind is the one that says if you are doing, I should have brought it so I could read it, but I will tell you what it pretty much says, that you must pass 50%, sorry, no, that's not what it says. You cannot fail 50% or more of any of the courses that you're doing in a semester. So if you're registered for 2 courses this semester, you've got to pass all 2 to continue. You can't fail one and pass another one. If you fail one and pass the other one, you're going to be asked to withdraw, and then you have to appeal and provide good reasons as to why it is that you should come back. Usually we take you back, but I'm saying the process is you're going to have to appeal. Alright? That's just the university graduate regulations. Nothing to do with School of Education. Nothing to do with Master Input. So don't stone the messenger. I am just the messenger. Okay? So that's what it is. So why am I telling you all of this though? Because I don't expect you to fall into these categories. I am sure that you're all hardworking. It is very unusual and I've been teaching this program for a long time. It is very unusual to have anyone in the MAT program asked to withdraw. I've never actually seen it. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's regulation. Okay? Now the regulations, graduate studies, they're available online. So you simply need to, and I see Dr. Tortello here for her class, I'm wrapping up. I'm wrapping up. But you simply need to go to the School of Education, no, the UWI website, look for the regulations in the graduate studies section, and you will see them. They're online. All right, and you can look at the section at leisure on examinations and, in fact, read the regulations, go through the regulations, because you really should have a sense of what is required. So those regulations are available to the public, UWI Graduate Studies. Go there, find the regulations, and you should be able to go through and read them carefully. I think your individual lecturers will give you a greater sense of what's required in terms of standard for the program, and that is something that you will talk about in your classes. I won't go there. I wanted to speak generally the regulations that relates to success in the program. All right? I think that was my last slide. You know the MED Online email address, and for all of us who are lecturers at the School of Education at UWI, you can get us at from the beginning, or do you do this from the beginning?
That's right there.
First name, last name. You can get us at I am marcia.rainford@UWI, etc. So we can all be reached like that. Paula.dailymorris at Chantal.more at, and that's it. That's standard. So you can get any one of us using that email address. All right? So that's pretty much what I had to say. Now I know you have some questions. We perhaps can take just 5 minutes of questions before your class, and I'll see if I can answer any of them for you. Chantal is here as well. She will be able to answer any administrative problems because she has that sort of experience. So let's hear if you have any questions.
Hi, we would like to know about the fees concerning this course.
About the?
Fees, the fees. The cost of this program.
Cost of the program.
It's $705 US per course, so you will pay per course, so you're paying $14.10 per semester. And you have options for paying. You can actually pay online using your credit card and going to the UEMONA electronic payment system that is available on the UEMONA's website. That's one option. A second option, you can work with a manager's check made out to the bursary, the University of the West Indies, MONA. You send that check to the MED Online office and they will pay it on your behalf. So you have those two options. Students who are in Jamaica can actually use like the banks and the paymasters and so on. No problem.
Any other questions? Perhaps we can take another shot.
We have a question, Bermuda.
Yes, Bermuda.
Just wanted to confirm the dates for the different sessions. What are the exact dates? Is it?
Is it? Sorry. Okay. The summer. This session should end somewhere around the first week in May. I think I can't remember the date in my offhand now, but that should take us 13 weeks from when we started. The summer session starts at the beginning of June. We have 2 summer sessions, and they run for 3 weeks each. And I think there's a break in between the first and second summer session. So I think there's a 2 weeks break. So we have 2 weeks. And in the first summer session, we have 2 courses. In the second summer session, we have another 2 courses.
Okay, is it possible, or?
Yes.
I'm sorry, just wondering if it's possible to get the exact dates.
Yes, I will ensure that the exact dates are available before the end of this week.
A student is saying that it was emailed out.
I thought so.
Actually, yeah. Has it been changed from last year? Aside from this semester, or I mean this session? This session's been changed.
No, I believe that the dates for this year have been sent out. Can you mute your mic, please? Or WJC has just okay, Bermuda, I understand that WJC, can you turn off can you mute your mic, please? WJC. Thank you. Okay, I was saying that I believe the dates for this semester, for this program have been sent out to you by email, but if you haven't got it, I will see to it that it's sent again. The specific dates. One more question before I depart hence.
Just one quick question.
One quick question.
Do you have any idea at all when the registration program will result?
Well, I know that I signed off on for each of you, the courses for which you should be registered for this semester. I did that, it might have been Monday. So I'm hoping that by the end of next week, all the problems will be solved, all the glitches. Because as it is right now, we have to register you, we have to arrange for you to be registered because of how we started. But in summer, it shouldn't be this difficult.
All right, and I wouldn't call the registration issue a problem or a glitch. I would call it more a process. Because remember, that we do the initial processing. It begins with the Emmett Online office. But then we have to rely on other departments to do their things, and they move at different paces. So we try to encourage, but just rest assured that the registration will be sorted out as long as, you have been accepted into the program. The registration will be sorted out very soon. All right?
All right, I'm going to allow you now to have your class with Dr. Tortello. I'm going to ask you to just have a good session, and I will see you again soon, I promise you. Give you more goodies. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, Bay, Bermuda, St. Lucia, Dominica was here. Good afternoon, everybody. You can hear me okay? Some of you are very small.
Good afternoon.
Hi, that's Montego Bay. That's Bermuda. All right. Good afternoon again. Sorry for the late start. We're going to hit the ground running, I hope. Those of you who weren't here 2 weeks ago, welcome. I see their numbers look a little larger. Always happens. So, you should have received emails that had the attachments of the course overview, the schedules, the syllabus, and each day's lesson has readings for that day listed, and all the readings are online for obvious reasons. Okay? And then you would have received an assignment sheet. There was an assignment due today. I've been getting a flurry of emails all day long. I would ask you kindly, please, to put your name on the paper, not just on the email. Because when I go to open the paper and print the paper, no name is on the paper. It gets very confusing for me, who's trying to do 5 things at one time, and then I don't know whose paper is whose paper. So just Some of you do it. You put your name and you put your ID number on the paper.
It's because
Let me, hold on, I shouldn't take your question. You're going to have to remind me of names again today because, you know, I'm getting old. And also, Kingston people, I'm begging you, if you are physically coming to the class, don't email me the papers. Just bring them to me.
okay. Good. So you wanted more? We thought you wanted because you sent email.
No, my mistake. I learn quickly from my mistakes.
Okay.
So, Kingston people have that extra opportunity to give me a hard copy, which I appreciate.
So we should put our names on it because
Yes, put your name
we're
on it.
always told to just put ID numbers.
No, I need names. I need names. All right. Okay. Now that housekeeping is out of the way, we're going to begin with a quick review of what we talked about 2 weeks ago. That was really an introductory session that we looked at what would we be covering in the course. The course is going to really look at the relationship between school and society, and all, which can be both positive and negative. Okay, as you will see from the readings. Eventually, we're going to go into theory, sociological theories of education, and we'll go into specific reform methods that have been tried in different places, and discuss them, whether we think they're solid, whether we think they're weak, whether we think they would fly in our countries. Just because it works in one country doesn't mean it will work wholeheartedly in another country. We talked about what is the purpose of education, why do we need to be educated, and we went through a long discussion on that. We watched the video, which hopefully if you weren't able to see it during class 2 weeks ago, you were able to watch it on your own, the TEDx talk that Sir Ken Robinson gave. The website is linked, the website address is on syllabus. I'm kind of wary of using videos in this class now because I can understand for those of you that are not sitting in front of me that you may have kind of sketchy viewings and then it's a waste of your time. Which is terrible because I love using the videos, it enlivens the class, but I have to kind of rethink it. If you can't see it and you can't hear it, it's perhaps not the best way to go. So for today, I had asked you to do a short a reflection paper reflecting on an object that symbolizes the meaning of education to you. I had read for you from Dr. Seuss's All the Places You Will Go, which is one of the things that symbolizes education to me. And I talked about some of the reasons why some of the sections of the book spoke to me. On my way here, I spoke to my children. As those of you who weren't here won't know, I'm going to refer to my children from time to time. You just have to humor me. On the way here, I asked them, what does education mean to them? My son is 10, my daughter is 8. When you ask children questions, you get very different answers usually from when you ask adults. My son said, it's about social and academic brain power. Those are his words. And they help you to solve easy problems and hard problems. That's what he said. When I asked him to give me an object, he said, I can't give you an object. And nothing comes to mind. Okay? I didn't have much time to push it. My daughter said, a child sitting at a desk with her pencil in her hand, a little bit more literal, my daughter. And she said, education is things that you learn from yourself and from others that will help you in life. So that's what they're thinking. It would be interesting, those of you who are actual teachers now, to ask that question and see what kind of answers you get. All right, some of you sent me images of a staircase that, education opens doors, a staircase with no end in sight, so an unending staircase. I got quotes from the Desiderata. I got images of people's parents and reflections on why when they think of education, they think of their parents. I got an image of a particular dish with all the mixture, all the ingredients in the dish. It looked very appetizing, a type of soup. It's not a Jamaican dish. I haven't read them because they just came in today, but I'm just giving you a sample of what some people used in trying to make that question make sense for them. I got a bowl of fruit. What happened, Craig? Keep going. I got a bowl of fruit as well as an image that was expanded on. Well, Craig is taking care of it. Who would like to volunteer to share one of your, or like a summarized version of what you wrote? Now remember, I'm still learning the names of everybody. Certain people's names I know very well, so they may get called on more frequently than others. To just work with me on that, Davey, Ashley. All right?
Yes.
So, would anybody like to start off? Kingston, you ready? Okay.
You know, I'm trying not to be the extroverted extrovert.
We love it.
It's holding myself.
Oh, we love it.
Fine.
Remember, please to say your name again and speak so they can hear you.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I'm Failure Bachelor. Do you want to turn the camera on me, somebody?
No, just come on.
All right.
Save us time.
Hi, I'm Failure Bachelor in Kingston, and my object is the lovely publication Mad Magazine.
That's right.
But it's not representing education for me because it is a book, a magazine. It represents education to me because of how I got introduced to it. I got introduced to this magazine by my lovely father, who is a voracious reader. He is a man that will go to sleep after staying up late because reading the novel that he just bought, and wake up at 2 a.m. to finish reading the book by the following day. Voracious reader. And when my brother, who is about 4 years younger than me, started getting to the age where he should be reading, he was hesitant. And so after a lot of different methods, my father decided he was going to start buying comic books. And it became a weekly thing that he's coming home with comic books. And Mad Magazine was one of those things that he was interested in from way before. In fact, I toyed with the idea of bringing you some 1970 odds, but then I thought, no, let me bring one that actually has a cover. It is a magazine that has satire and has lovely drawn images. It kind of works like my own brain because a lot of the pages, it's hard for you guys to see, but this is the table of contents, and it's got images. Yeah, it's got images all in the margins, top and bottom, and every page is like that. So it's got satire and thing. And part of the education for me was figuring out what the words meant, because it's got big words, it's got small words. Figuring out which part was the tongue-in-cheek haha joke and which part was the, oh, you're insulting the person but they don't know that they're being insulted. And like education, it appeals to all different aspects of the person for me. I know at this lovely stage of my life, after 41 lovely years, that you have structured education in a classroom behind a desk. There is an instructor there to tell you what they know. And then you have the unstructured education, the things you learn at home, the things you learn from your friends, the things that you learn about yourself that you didn't know you knew about yourself. And so that, in a nutshell, is what education means to me, and thank you, Mad Magazine. The end.
Hey, well done. You covered a bunch of applause.
I got applause.
I didn't get applause when I read my doctor's book.
Mental applause.
That's right. That's okay. But Dr. Seuss is Dr. Seuss. It's not mine. All right. So, some of the things you touched on, a very important point you made is that education doesn't only occur in the classroom. And in fact, there's a quote, I don't know who said it, that goes like this: 9/10 of what you learn in the class is undone outside of the class. And that's really one of the struggles that educators face, because you try your best in the class, and if you've watched the film, how many of you watched the movie Freedom Writers? Right. Only 2 of you? 3 of you? I watched it. How about in the other countries? You were able to watch the film? You will enjoy the film. It's not like I'm giving you a boring film to watch. It's an interesting film. In that film, you see very clearly. Very clearly, but it's also very extreme. The battle that goes on between what that teacher is trying to do in her classroom and what is being undone when those children leave the classroom. And how does she get them to stay the course? What does she, as a teacher, do to get those students coming back to her classroom daily to actually start paying attention to what she's saying and to believe in her one of the fundamental things that she does is that she begins to understand what's happening to her students outside and shows them respect. And by showing them respect, eventually she gains their respect, because when she first came, they didn't respect her at all. She came with the pearls and the nice outfit, and they thought, this lady is crazy, she's not going to last very long, she's where, you know, she can't understand us, she can't relate to us, etc., etc., etc. But she really cared, and the students realized that. And that's why one of the readings for this week, Body, Caring, and Power, the caring is in that title. In my opinion, if you don't care anymore, you shouldn't be in the classroom. So the best teacher, to me, it's just my opinion, is not necessarily the most brilliant student and was the brightest person in the class, or has the most degrees, but is the person that is empathetic, is concerned, and is tolerant, so willing to meet the students halfway. So sometimes people that make better teachers are people who struggle with a particular subject at school, because they are able to relate to the students who are struggling, as opposed to being short with them and say, what do you mean you can't get that answer? Didn't I just show you how to do it? I just showed you perfectly clearly how to do it. Why can't you do it? I had two brothers like that helped me in math and physics and chemistry in high school, and it was very difficult because I couldn't follow what they were doing, and they couldn't understand why I didn't understand what they were doing. Now, obviously, when you have 40 students in a class, you don't necessarily have time to have this individual connection with your students. So what you have to do, you have to become a genius at classroom methodology and figure out how you're going to pair your students, how you're going to be able to move yourself around the class. Teachers have to be very tactical today. How you're going to use technology, or how you're going to use manipulatives, or how you're going to use different modalities to engage all the different types of learners that you have in your class and still cover the syllabus that you're required to teach. I gave you the example of how I had a math teacher who just taught us the formulas, and as long as we knew the formulas, he was fine with that formula. And Ashley's smiling because she had the same math teacher. And I loved that math teacher, you know. I got along very well with him, but as I got older, I realized that he really didn't spend the time to help us fully understand why we were doing what we were doing. So we simply learned how to do it without understanding the bigger picture. And that really is not what you should strive for. You should strive for full understanding, not just learning to get by and pass the test. Now, I don't know about the other countries, but in Jamaica we spend a lot of time learning to get by and pass the test. And we start it very, very early. We start testing the children very young. Grade 3, grade 4, grade 6, grade 9, and then CSEC and CAPE. Right? Can I hear from the other countries? Do you have as many tests? Bermuda? Yes. You have as many tests for your students?
I don't think so.
Both were trying to speak at the same time.
Okay, let me have one person tell me if you think you have as many tests. If you have as many tests. Jason.
Bermuda? Yes.
Yeah, Bermuda.
No, we don't think we have as many tests as that.
You have CSEC or your version of school leaving tests at age 6 and age 15, 16?
What is it? A GCSE. We have GCSEs.
We all have those same tests. We all have those
at
same
11.
tests. And you have one
No,
at
we
11.
don't have the same. We have GCSEs.
You have GCSEs. Okay, so you still do those. We used to do those, but now we do CSEC, which the other islands do, I think. Dominica would. St. Lucia probably does as well. Right? But we test our children, we test them at age 6 as well. And well, that's not a diagnostic test, but we just use that as data for the teachers to supposedly, in theory, help to teach them better, because grade 1 is a very, very, very critical year, as research has shown in many countries around the world. If you mess up at grade 1, the chances of that child getting back on as progressive a trajectory start to lessen. So a good example of that story is another story from an ethnographic piece of research that was done in the 90s in the American South. And that researcher went to different schools, I forget what state, like North Carolina or South Carolina. Different schools with different income levels, so low income, middle income, and high income. And looked at grade 1 students and watched how the students interacted with the teacher, etc., and did observations. So it was a qualitative study, it was not quantitative. And what she was watching was how the students were participating in literacy activities. What would be categorized as literacy activities, listening to stories, responding to questions. They're not writing because they're 6, so they're not sitting down and writing that much, but they might be, answering worksheets and so on. And what she found was that the children from the lower income families who lived in more rural parts of the state were used to listening to stories being told by elderly people in the community or orally told in a group where they could get up and walk around and come back to the group. They didn't have to sit down necessarily because this was a form of entertainment. And they would be stories about whatever. I mean, I can't remember whether they were tricks or tales or not, but what she noticed was when those students came to the class now, and they're mixed with middle-income students, the middle-income students are used to being told stories from books specifically. So they're used to sitting down or put on the lap, hold the book, open the book, look at the book, turn the pages, etc., etc. And if they're asked, what is this animal? They say this is a duck. What sound does a duck make? They say quack, quack. But the children from the rural parts of the state were often from farming communities, and they would say things like, no, my grandpa has a duck, or has ducks, and not all his ducks are yellow. Some of the ducks are brown, and some of them are white. But in the book, all the ducks are yellow. So how did the teacher deal with that? Right? You ask the children, what color is a duck? The duck is yellow. And then the other child would interrupt and say, well, no, I've seen a brown duck, and not all ducks sound like quack, 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 because my grandpa's duck makes this sound, and he would make the sound that he had heard. Now, the teacher has a few options. The teacher can embrace what the child is saying and say, oh, yes, that's true. Ducks have different... You're wondering where I'm going with the ducks. I soon get to it. Ducks can be different colors. They can make different sounds. Or she could say, Johnny, stop moving around. Come and sit down. The duck is yellow. We only care about the yellow duck today, and the sound is quack, quack. And what happened more often than not to those kids that had slightly more information, based on real-life experiences, is that teachers tended not to bring them into the conversation. Why? Because it distracted the teachers from their lesson plan and what they wanted to do. And they didn't want to get distracted from what they were trying to do. So they didn't bring the child into the conversations. The child was often labeled. This was a longitudinal study. She spent a long time in these classrooms. Labeled as a problem child who wouldn't sit down and pay attention because he's not used to sitting down. He's 6, first of all, and he's used to walking around when he's hearing a story being told. So he's not sitting down. So he's distracting the other children too. And what happened to that child was that over time, although he had entered the school with higher order critical thinking skills, which, as you know from the TEDx talk, he was telling us, when you did that study with the kindergartners and you asked them questions of how many ways can you use a paperclip? Because the kindergartners can think outside the box and they say, well, the paperclip doesn't have to be small. It could be big, it could be red, it could bend, it could do this, which as you get older, you think in more prescribed ways. Well, a paperclip is a paperclip. So we can only do what we can do with this size paperclip. So that kind of creativity, those kind of critical thinking skills were not embraced, are not what she saw, was not being embraced by the school system, and that child was labeled a problem child, which then made it more difficult as he went through the same school system. So it isn't that children start out higher income, lower income, with huge deficiencies. It's how they are received, how they are facilitated, and what they're exposed to. That's what she was saying. And the study also underscored the importance of grade 1 again. Because grade 1 is in Jamaica, grade 1 is very important because grade 1 is the beginning of when the government really pays for the majority of the children to go to school. We don't pay for all of them going to early childhood institutions. although the overwhelming majority of our children aged 3 to 6 are in school somewhere. The government is not necessarily paying for them, but they're paying from grade 1. And we have a great high attendance, high enrollment, and pretty good attendance in primary school. We're pretty good. Compared to many other countries, you all might be shocked how good we are with that. What we're not so good at is the equity amongst the schools, amongst the offerings that's taking place in the country. In terms of the qualifications of the teachers, in terms of the involvement of the parents, these are all factors that come into play. In terms of the access to the materials and supplementary materials. In terms of the classroom, how crowded the classroom is, the number of adults in a classroom is much more important from ages 3 to 8 than any time thereafter. So the teacher-student ratio does not make a huge difference, studies have shown, as you get higher up into the school system. But where it's important is at for the very young students, which is why you want to have no more than 8 to 10 children with one adult from age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to have it, but we don't have that. By and large, we don't have that, but that's the goal to which you aspire. That's an international goal, that's not a Jamaican goal only. All right? So, why did I start talking about the dogs? Oh, the grade 1 and the importance of being empathetic and being open to bringing the students their learned experiences into the classroom. Not so that they disrupt the class, but that's what that teacher started to do. Remember, she realized they were listening to rap music, so she brought in lyrics by Tupac Shakur and started to use that to teach poetry. She picked her reading and went above and beyond the call of duty to get these books for these students, working 2 or 3 different jobs to the detriment of her marriage, to the guy from Grey's Anatomy, to teach these students, right? And she picked titles that she thought would speak to them. So she bought them their own books, but not only the fact of buying them books, she chose titles, subject matter that she thought they'd be able to relate to. And they did. They related to the Diary of Anne Frank. Very strongly. So strongly, that book is based on a true story. So strongly that they went on and invited the woman who had helped to hide Anne Frank to come and talk. Those of you who watched the movie may be bored now, but those of you who haven't watched the movie, I'm carrying you along in the conversation. Right? To come and speak to the students, and she said to them that they are heroes. Now imagine how that builds their self-esteem. If you are not happy with yourself, you're not going to do well in school. Because why would you be interested in what's going on? Right? Just as if you're hungry, you're not going to do well. Because you're thinking about the fact that you're hungry. So if you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to pay attention to your teacher, no matter how much drama the teacher is doing, providing. So teaching is a very difficult job. Not all of us are cut out to do it. And those of us who don't have a genuine interest in children should not go into that profession at the lower levels. Going on up to lower level, meaning to secondary at least. Right? In many cases now, and it's getting harder because the students, their attention spans are getting shorter. Because this is a generation being raised on technology and they're used to things happening fast and segueing from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, like this. And if you're teaching in a sort of boring way, like my daughter got to take her tablet to school, her tablet that she won in a competition, because we weren't buying her one. Lucky her. Good for us too that she won it. She got to take it to school. They're doing a world wildlife habitat hunt. So everybody brought their tablets or whatever and shared them. And some of them went to the Arctic, and some of them went to the desert, and some of them went to the marine life under the sea. And I don't remember what the other habitats are. And the whole school was upset that grade 3 was able to bring in tablets and nobody else could do that. And then they went to their teachers and they said, this is wrong, how come this grade can do this and we can't do this? And the teachers, the older teachers said, this is a young teacher, grade 3, younger, said, no, sorry, not doing that, too distracting. Can't do that with you all, I'd never get you to pay attention, and we have the GSAT syllabus to come.
There you go.
So my son, who always a little lawyer in the making, says to the teacher, but you know, you had us researching all these different Caribbean national heroes. And we all had to go home and we had to learn about all these people. Why couldn't we have done that in class? I could have done one from Barbados, and Matthew could have done one from St. Lucia, and this one could have done one from Trinidad, and then we could have talked about it using our tablets, he says, or whatever computer technology we had. She said, no, it's not happening. Because she herself is not comfortable with it. And she's not going to do it. So instead of having another activity they had was everybody in the class had to research Thomas Edison. Everybody. Then they come back and they have to stand up and read about Thomas Edison. So obviously everybody is reading very similar things. So it's boring. So I said to my son, what did you learn about Thomas Edison? He said, well, I didn't learn anything more than we did when we Googled him and we wrote it out for me to read. Because after the first two people stood up, it was the same stuff, so I took out my book to read, he says. Which he knows he's not supposed to do. So that was another point. But he said the next time when he saw his sister, he said, see, she could have given me Thomas Edison and somebody else could have gotten another inventor and we could have made it more fun. And these are the kinds of things when you're planning lessons for students. You have to try now and think about what is going to hook them. And make the lessons that you're trying to teach exciting for them so that they come to school enthusiastic. Which in the long run, although it's extra planning on your part, it can become easier. And you yourself continue to learn. A lot of people who go into teaching also go into teaching because they themselves like to learn. So they're continually learning. But some teachers have a great problem with admitting that they don't know the answer. Some children ask excellent questions, and you don't know the answer. But you don't, and it's not in the book. But you don't always have to know the answer. So you tell the student, I don't know the answer to that question. Why don't we research that? I'll do my research, you do your research, and we bring it and we discuss it tomorrow. Nothing is wrong with that. Absolutely nothing is wrong with that. Instead of teaching for rote memorization, which is, we do a good job of that. And our tests reflect that. Sadly, too often they reflect that. I think, that's just my opinion. All right, let's have another person share. Take a few more and then we'll move on. Today we're talking about the role of the teacher, if you hadn't guessed by now. Anybody want to volunteer from another country or Montego Bay?
I'll volunteer.
The lady in red has just arrived in Montego Bay. Hello, how are you? They're very small. They have to be so small. Can you see that? There's my eyes. Come on, guys, you have to participate. Ah, that's good. Hello, Montego Bay. How about you?
Hi.
Hi. Would you like to share your object reflection paper with the rest of us?
Okay.
Either of you?
Sure.
Okay. Tell us your name, please.
Oh, I'm Dexton.
Hi, Dexton.
Yes. Well, in short, my object is the classroom. And in particular, this classroom. Right? For me, it's significant because it depicts where I am coming from. You hear me clearly?
Yes, you're good. You're good.
Okay. It depicts where I'm coming from. So for me, it's a symbol that I am moving from one stage to another, and I'm moving from this stage, and I'll be moving to another stage. Right? It depicts the success of my previously set educational goals. For me, also, it depicts it's a symbol that my parents, the investment they made in their time and money and energy was not wasted. So I am here, and I am on my way to going further. That's in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's an example of education as a gateway to possibilities. Basically. To me, that's what summarizes your reaction.
Yes.
Can I get, and that is very true, and that is really the basis of a lot of educational policy, right? Educational policy around the world is based on that premise. Now, much more so perhaps than in previous times. As you saw in the video, in the TEDx talk, long ago, a couple centuries ago, the way we were educated, the children were streamed much earlier. And children either went vocational routes to be apprenticed, etc., if they were even that lucky. And those who were deemed to be, they still do this to some extent, but not to the dramatic extent that it happened in the past. Those that were deemed to be, those that were sons of lawyers or sons of preachers or sons of school principals would go the more academic route. But those that were sons of farmers would tend to be pushed towards farming. But nowadays, that's not the case. Nowadays, with the way that information flows so freely around the world and new jobs are created, the jobs that we have today, some of them are going to be obsolete when my children are grown. And there'll be new jobs like video game developer, as we talked about last week. Or I heard a story about a new development in fashion where the clothes are apps. Meaning the outfit, it's at London Fashion Week or New York Fashion Week or something. It was on the BBC. And the outfit can, I don't know how you do it. You can say, I don't want to wear white anymore, I want to wear pink. And it becomes pink and just this part is pink and the rest is black. Or you can put a leopard print on the top and you can change it. And then somebody has developed this and believes that in the future, all the apps that we have to be carrying as appendages now, on the phone, in the air, whatever, on the watch, are going to be melded onto our person. So, I mean, look, nobody would have thought of that would even be a reality 10 years ago. But it is a reality, and people are buying these. I think it was Katy Perry wore it to some event, and then that was why they did the story, because it mushroomed after that. Okay? So, one more sharing from either St. Lucia or Dominica or Bermuda, please.
I wouldn't mind going if someone else
Jason?
wants to.
Yes. Is that Jason? That's nice, thank you, Jason. Go ahead.
Okay, well, my definition for my definition for education was based on a presentation that I watched by Sir Ken Robinson after watching the one that you showed in class, and he basically said that, and he said that at the heart of education, basically there's a teacher and a learner, and if there's no learning or teaching going on, then education is not happening, basically. And so for me, I define education as the synergistic interaction between a learner and a teacher, or between the acts of learning and the acts of teaching. And my object, and then I also talked about the purposes of education, what I thought the purposes of education are, and I call those the 3 Ps, perception, power, and purpose. And the object that I chose that I feel reflects those things was a cross, because with perception, I believe that's related to how education shapes and informs our worldviews, how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and how we fit into the world and everything like that. And so the cross, to me, for a Christian, represents the Christian worldview. And so that's how it relates to perception. And then power, similar to what the gentleman in Montego Bay, I believe, said, in a sense that education empowers us.
I'm listening. We're listening, Jason.
Okay, just make sure you can hear me. Okay, yeah. So education empowers us. It allows us to learn new information and be able to solve problems and new problems that we weren't able to solve before because we didn't have the information. And it also enables us to go places to get jobs that we wouldn't be able to get without education and and things like that. So, and that relates to the cross in the sense that Christians believe that Christ's sacrifice on the cross set us free from sin and gave us the power to overcome sin. So it empowers us. And then the last one was purpose. And education ties into purpose because, well, I believe that God created everyone for a purpose on earth. But even aside from that, education is a goal of education should be to help us use our talents and our natural gifts to discover those, to understand them, so that we can actually reach our full potential, I guess. And that's reflected in the cross, because the cross is the reason why Jesus was born on the earth, to sacrifice himself for humanity. And then how the cross relates to my definition of education being the synergistic interaction of the acts of learning and teaching is that Christians believe that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was a demonstration and a lesson of the greatest lesson possibly ever taught, which is love. And it was a lesson that's greater than just Jesus and humanity. It's greater than just the teacher and the learner, because through that love, Jesus made a way for himself to return to heaven, but not only that, he made a way for the whole of humanity to be reconciled to God in heaven. So it's greater than just, it's a synergistic relationship, I guess. So
Okay, thank you, Jason. Well, I guess Jesus, for many people, would be considered one of the first teachers, right? Because of the masses. He was attempting to teach certain moral values and approaches to living. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, the whole concept of love. If you love what you're doing, no matter what job you have, but it's, I think, particularly important in teaching because you're not getting that well paid. You're in a classroom that could be hot and overcrowded, and you have a lot of extra stress that's brought on by the students, by the administration sometimes, right? By your frustration with what you're given to teach, or the materials you're given to help you teach. So really you have to love what you're doing, and you have to love the kids, or you wouldn't be there. I like to think most teachers are there for that reason, because they generally have an interest in and a caring for children, for students, and for learning and for knowledge, and for that teaching-learning exchange. It's exciting when you see a child or a person that you're working with get the idea or the concept that you're teaching, right? It's a bit of a rush. It's really great, right? I just went through that with my son with the Math Olympiad. He only missed 3 questions out of 50. And yeah, because they got the answers. I don't know. But he came home very excited about it, and we discussed the questions, and we'd been practicing. And when you could see that he would understand what we were doing, you know, and his face would light up, you say, oh wow, this is why, this is why we do this. And then sometimes they ask an even better question, and some of those questions I can't answer anyway, so we have to go through them. I'm learning too, or remembering, right? So I want to go into more concretely what we consider to be the role of the teacher. I will read all of the papers and respond to those of you who sent me by email. I'll respond by email with your sending back your papers. Those of you who give me hard copies, obviously I will give you back hard copies. I love those of you who give me hard copies because it's so much easier to grade those than having to go on a computer to grade. So, look. Some of the things that we've mentioned in terms of the role of the teacher, and the article, Body, Caring, and Power in Teacher-Pupil Relationships, which links back to what Jason was talking about, the teacher-pupil relationship. That's really key because, as I said last time, teacher expectations are one of the most dramatic, has one of the strongest impacts on a student's performance. Study after study has shown that. Teacher expectation can drive student performance. Yes, ma'am. Remind me of your name.
Alyssa.
Alyssa.
I have a question about those studies because I wonder.
This one? Or just studies in general? Right.
About the cause and effect. I'm wondering how they determine what is the cause and what is the effect. because they're saying teacher expectations have an impact on how well students do. How do they know that the teachers don't expect this because the students consistently do poorly?
Well, a lot of those studies have interviewed the teachers about what they think students' achievements will be, and they ask them about specific students, and then they track them over time.
Yeah, but I don't think any teacher sees a student and says, you know, I don't know anything about you, but I just think you're gonna be a bad student. I think you're gonna get bad
You don't think
grades."
so?
No, I think based on how, no, I mean, I don't think any teacher, I don't think any teacher sees a student on the first day of school.
No, it's not on the first day of school. But the thing is, look, let me tell you, the reality of
Over
it.
time, yeah, and it's over time, exactly, and so it's just based on the student's performance. If I have a student who always does poorly, I don't expect her to
No, it's not always,
suddenly.
unfortunately, it's not always based on the student's performance. I mean, as you saw in the movie, and I don't know if you've experienced it in real life, but there are teachers in the system, and in that movie there were teachers in the system who, remember, like they wouldn't give them the books. They said those students don't deserve the books because they're not going to read the books, they're going to damage the books. Some of those students were new students. And then the other teacher said, I don't want to teach those students. So I'm only teaching these students that are in the AP stream, right? I forget the name of that character, the male teacher.
But it would still be because of previous experiences. I don't think any teacher comes in with a blank slate, he's a new student and thinks, okay, I label you smart student and you bad student.
I'm sorry to tell you that unfortunately, even in my own reality as a teacher, teachers have their favorite students. You form as a human being, you tend to form impressions
For a
of
reason.
based on how they speak, how they look, where they live,
how they speak
to you, whether they're paying attention to you or not, what they're doing in the back of the class. But also, unfortunately, and this is a very generalized statement, I know that I would like to believe that too, that all teachers don't form impressions of the students before actually working with the students. But the reality is in life too, even in job interviews and so on. When you go into a job interview, people form impressions of you based on how you come in.
Based on how you put yourself together, which I think is,
which is part of the students as they come in, how they put themselves together, what they look like, how they speak.
I mean, outside of prejudice, and I think that would happen in maybe in situations where you have people from a lot of different backgrounds, and so maybe the teacher has some bias against students that come from that community or students who have that skin color. I mean, that happens, but I don't know if the particular studies, or I don't know if it is a general thing, that given an ordinary classroom, students walk in on the first day and teachers say, okay.
No, I didn't say on the first day.
But
what you have to do as a teacher, I think, is to be very self-aware and make sure that you are not doing that to students, that you're not necessarily labeling your students for any reasons that are not warranted. Meaning, if the student continues to cause trouble in class, is always causing trouble, and you haven't been able to figure out a reason why he's causing trouble, meaning he's not being abused at home, he's not hungry, whatever could be other extenuating circumstances, he's just causing trouble because he's causing trouble, and he causes trouble in other classes, and you do your research, then that's warranted. But if you are going to form opinions based on how the student talks, walks, speaks, looks, those are not the way to begin. That's not what I'm talking about in terms of expectations, though. Those studies are talking about teachers. Some teachers just expect girls to do better than boys, just flat out. So they're going to put the girls in the front of the class and they put the boys in the back because they say to themselves, you know what, I don't have my time to waste. I'm focusing on the ones that are going to do well because I need my class average to look good so that I can do my promotion or whatever it is. So those in the back, I'm not going to pay that much attention to those in the back. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. I'm saying that this is a thing that happens. Right. That teachers have a big, and in Jamaica that is a specific issue. The girl-boy thing is a specific issue. That our teachers, by and large, believe girls are going to perform in the public school system, not in the private school system. as much.
And I don't know if the brown skin, long hair thing continues, but it used
I
to
would
be
hope
epidemic.
not, but those are
It
things,
continues.
not only here, that continues everywhere.
specify.
You need to look that way, because they can't see you.
That's all.
Yes, loudly.
Right. One thing I realized at one point, like you have, of course, you have the football team, and you have some teachers
are
who-
another thing.
they're gonna be like, because many of the girls, especially like in high school, they like the boys who play football, and then you have the teachers thinking that because the girls are giving all these boys attention and all of that, these boys will get a lot of attention, and of course, at lunch period, break period, they're eating, they have a lot of girls around them and so on. Teachers are like, okay, those boys, athletes, they're not gonna do well. I've seen it
Yeah, no, these are natural. I'll give you an example.
I'll
give you an example of a mistake that I made. Even though you can be self-reflective and aware, you're so impacted by society that sometimes you have to step back. So, for example, before I go to listing some of the roles that we're going to brainstorm that come from the reading as well. I was in the car and a song by Iggy Azalea came on the radio. I didn't know who she was because I'm a little out of it. And I said to my daughter who was singing all the words, "Oh, is this Nicki Minaj?" My daughter says, "No, Mommy, this is Iggy Azalea." I said, "Iggy or Izzy?" She says, "No, it's Iggy, don't you hear?" She says the name in the song and she's singing I-G-G-Y, blah, 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 blah. I said, "Oh, okay. So is she American?" She says, "No, she's Australian." I said, "What?" Because she doesn't sound Australian. She sounds like Nicki Minaj. She sounds American. So I say, "Okay, Australian, are you sure?" She says, "Yes, I'm sure." I'm sure. I said, "Okay, so does she look like Nicki Minaj?" I say to my daughter. She says, No, she looks like me. And my daughter has blondish brown hair. So I said, "Oh, Maria, she doesn't look like you." She says, "I'm telling you, she's blonde like me. She looks like me, Mommy. I'm going to Google it and show you when we get home." And sure enough, the woman looks like, not like my daughter, vice versa, but she's blondish, brownish, whatever color her hair is. And I said to my daughter, I said, "You see that?" I heard the woman's voice. And the first image in my mind was Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj's different color hair, and American experience, and so on. And the woman comes from Australia, which is miles away from Nicki Minaj's reality. But she sounds like Nicki Minaj, so in my mind, I create an image. And if I didn't stop myself and say, and so I taught my daughter, I said, "You see what I did was wrong." We went through a longer discussion. I said, does she look like me? Does she look like Jennifer Lopez? Does she look like... She said, no. She looks like me, I'm telling you. Right?
Mommy, you're not getting it.
No, so that was a lesson to me. And I tried to teach that to my daughter, that you must not judge so quickly like that. Because you never know.
Yeah, but my question really,
But my answer to your question is that teachers do that. Flat out, it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the answer. And unfortunately,
No.
they're not necessarily
What I don't trust
taken
is
to
the
task.
study. I don't
Well,
trust
I
the
can look
study.
for some and
The
send them to you.
Huh?
The studies show
That's
that
No.
teachers form expectations based on a myriad of factors. Some are warranted, some are not warranted. And the students respond to the way the teacher interacts with them.
Based on their expectations.
One of the factors is based on their expectations.
But that's not the impression I gave of what you said in the beginning.
Very well.
The impression I got in the beginning was that this study asked some students some questions. How do you expect?
No, teachers.
What do you
Teachers.
The teacher, sorry, I misspoke. How well do you expect these students to do at the end of the year and at the end of the term? And they got the teacher's responses, and then they tracked it, and at the end of the year, they looked at the students' results.
They don't just go on in the first day of the term. These are more longitudinal studies that take data over months and terms in a school year.
Right.
And then they watch how the teacher is interacting with the students, and they see how they behave differently to students A and student B, and then they ask the teacher questions that are not necessarily flat out like, do you think this child is going to do well? Because they're not trying to get leading answers. The teacher's not going to say, the teacher may not give them the right answer. So these are psychologically based questions. the teacher may not realize what they're getting at in the answers that they're giving, in the questions that they're asking, so that they get answers that are not leading. When you do studies, you have to be careful how you ask questions, because you can mess up the data by simply leading your person to give you the answer you want. And they wouldn't be allowed to do this study, wouldn't be considered valid or reliable if they did that. And these are studies that are published in reputable journals of education. It's not like one person went to one class and just sat there and said, oh, because this happens in PS24 in New York, it happens all over the city. That's not going to be, nobody's going to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I understand that.
So I'll look for some to send you. All right, roles of the teacher. Can we have some suggestions of some roles that you think teachers provide or play in the classroom?
Mother.
Okay, so parents.
Parent.
Can you see this? See, this is the problem with this now. Can you all see this?
They're going to
No. I'll email it to you after in any case. But just for the purposes of discussion, this would be like me writing on the board, but if I write on the board, you won't be able to see it. So this is what I'm told I must do.
I can see it.
Okay. Jason, can you see it? You.
No, we cannot.
All right, so can you just write down the words that I call out for your purposes then?
Okay.
I can try to make it bigger. That's as big as.
Could you turn the
You can
camera?
write.
Right.
If you click on the 72, you can type in your own number.
You see it now? You don't need to show me. Right. Oh yes, we can see it now. Okay, perfect. So the first role is parental, and we've discussed that quite a bit. All right. What's another role?
Counsel.
All right. Another one.
Facilitator.
Facilitator. Okay. Mentor.
Motivation.
Yep.
Disciplinarian.
Disciplinarian is the next one. Sorry, can't help that. Next one. Another one.
Trainer.
Trainer. Was that what you said?
Trainer. Yes, trainer.
I'm going to put that with facilitator. Okay. Next one.
Educator.
Right, all of those are similar. Educator, right?
Caregiver.
Yep. Right, caregiver would be like parent. So put that pair, yeah. Another one. It's interesting the choices that you all are making. What was the last one?
Role model.
Role model.
That could be like a mentor.
We had motivator. What number it was?
Yes, I have motivator. We have motivator. Anything else? Anybody? Kingston, Montego Bay?
Policeman more.
Disciplinarian would cover those. Yeah.
Security. Security.
Don't it?
Security.
Just pushing it over.
Security. All right. Okay. Anything else?
Judge.
A mediator.
Yeah,
Mediator. Okay, Thalia, you say judge. Why?
Well,
Like
sometimes
a
you have
referee,
to
you
part
mean?
fight, sometimes you have to make decisions.
So it's more like a referee.
Whatever.
All right. Referee. Well, that's a mediator.
That's a
Too.
mediator.
Yeah, that's a mediator.
Sorry?
So mediator slash referee.
Yeah, you could say mediator slash referee if you'd like. Anything else?
Nurse, doctor.
Nurse. Jinx, the whole of you own this out of here.
What did you say? Sorry?
Nurse and doctor. Listen, man. Nurse and doctor.
No, that comes under care.
Alrighty.
Wonder what it is?
Anything else?
Yep.
Okay. Interestingly, none of you have mentioned a curriculum specialist None of you said that one. None of you said leader.
What is there?
None of you said.
Hero.
I have role models.
Hero, I like that.
Role resource provider. That's another. That's another. None of you said planner. You have to plan every day, right? None of you said. Well, you said facilitator, but none of you said manager. You do a lot of managing in a classroom. Not only of the students, but of yourself, of your time, of the materials. A lot of managing goes on. To some extent of your budget, if you have one. Right? So, all right, so we got 14. Nothing wrong with that. What?
And role
Many of
model.
them.
We didn't have that.
I have role model.
Oh, we did?
I have role model. We have role model. Thank you. The next question I have to ask is, how many of these do you think in teacher preparation programs you're taught? Let's go over them. This font is too big for this. Let's make the size bigger. All right, so we have parental caregiver, counselor, facilitator, educator, mentor, role model, motivator, disciplinarian. Which of these do you think are included in teacher preparation classes? That's a different way to phrase the question.
Trainer.
Educator.
Okay.
Trainer, resource provider, curriculum specialist.
Trainer, resource provider, curriculum specialist. Oops. Specialist. Planner. Manager, you think is included? You all agree? Yeah, that you're trained to do that, are you? Yeah? Alright. What else? Anything else? Did I miss anything else you think is included
Resource
in teacher
provider.
Resource provider. Did I not put educator?
Resource provider.
Alright. Alright. So the ones that are left out, things like role model and leader, those are not so much covered in the teacher prep courses, in your opinion? Leader?
I've never been trained as a teacher, so I can't say.
Yes, why? Give me an example.
Leadership is the direction of influence. What the teacher says goes. So the students have to follow the lead.
Really?
Well, they all teach.
I suppose they should, but they're not going to do that unless you have certain leadership skills.
There you go, and that is expected of the teacher. So we expect the teacher to
but the teacher has to be, perhaps those skills need to be nurtured.
But you
Not
can't
everybody
actually
has
teach
them,
people to be
right?
leaders, you know.
Let me tell you the example. I'm always going to use examples. What is that, Craig? Did I do that?
Leaders are managers are
That's you. Okay. One of the things I'm always going to do is use practical examples if I have them. So I believe strongly that you can tell a well-managed, strong school just when you walk onto the compound.
That's true.
You can gather data, you can do a fulsome inspection, which we're doing now. We're inspecting our schools, and there's many criteria that we're using, from the physical plant to the qualification of the teachers, to the availability of medicine, sick bays, to the involvement of the parents, all of that. There are a whole myriad of criteria. But I believe you can do sort of a rough and ready thing when you step onto that school ground, go through that fence. You have a sense whether the school is a strong school or sort of whether there's a strong principal, a strong leader, with a strong team, or not.
strong.
Why? Why do you think I say that? Anybody?
Environment, whether it's clean, how clean.
Clean, yeah.
Whether or not you see students on the outside just walking about, especially in the time where classes are supposed to be happening, and so on and so forth.
So if there's a sense of order,
Yeah.
And what about if I go by the classrooms and I hear a lot of noise coming from the classroom?
It depends on if you'd be allowed to go over by the classroom.
Unless there's an active discussion.
It can be good noise.
I have parents who go. I have parents. So the noise in the classroom could be two things. The noise in the classroom could be the class is out of control, the teacher's gone. The noise in the classroom could be the teacher is there and the class is out of control. Or the noise in the classroom could be because the teacher is teaching an interactive lesson. Right? So you have to go to the classroom. You can't just take the noise as a bad sign necessarily. But those schools that have strong principals are usually well-run schools. I don't mean strong meaning mean, hefty people. I mean that they're solid leaders, they're good managers, they have their priorities down, they've built a sense of camaraderie amongst their team respects them, she or he respects his or her team. They involve the parents. Right? There's a school in East Kingston. East Kingston is close to the inner city Kingston. Well, it's part of the inner city, but this school is not all the way down. For those of you who live in Kingston, this school that I'm thinking of is near to St. Joseph's Hospital. This school principal is so dynamic. She won Principal of the Year one year recently, but she's so dynamic that she has devised ways when she has her grade 1 students coming, when their incoming students are coming to take their grade 1 test assessment, she has the older children come to help escort the children in, take them on tours of the school because it's a new school to them, it's a big place compared to where they're coming from. Their parents are invited to come and she talks with the parents. Teachers come and talk to the parents, not just the grade 1 teachers, but a selection of the other teachers so the parents' fears are waylaid and concerns can be answered. The grade 1 teachers are supported in giving the grade 1 assessment test by the other teachers so that the children meet the other adults because they've never seen these people before. That's one of the things she does. Another thing she'll do is she'll say, you know what, my school needs to be painted. The school doesn't look right. I don't like how it looks. So, for my graduation speech or for some event at the school, I'm going to invite a representative from a paint company to come and speak. And then when he speaks or she speaks, I'm going to ask for paint. I'm going to say, look, see, it would be so nice to have a mural on this wall. And then by and large, the painting person says, oh, we could donate some paint, you know, because I've so enjoyed my visit to the school. And she writes thank you letters. And so that she's strategic, right? Because her budget, she knows, does not allow her to paint a mural on the wall. Or she's involved in clubs and activities and she gets people coming to her school and she gets her students going out into the community. She herself goes and visits the parents in the community, house to house, and has her teachers do the same.
That's in Jamaica?
Yes, this is in East Kingston. She takes her parents on field trips. Her PTA parents, once a year. I don't think she's able to do it more than that. That school operates from morning until the evening. She has homework clubs and she has clubs for the parents to come to access the computers and learn skills related to our vocational training institution, HEART, which Jamaicans will know what that is. This is one person who has made it her mission to work with this, she's not from this community, to work with this community and create partnerships to build her school. And from you walk onto the school grounds, you know this school is run well. And she has her teachers, she has early childhood trained teachers teaching in grade 1. So just because there's noise coming from the classroom, she's not freaking out that the children are misbehaving. She wants to hear noise coming from the classroom because she wants the children to be engaged in asking questions and playing games that build their critical thinking skills. Right? Now, was she taught all of that?
Yeah.
Not all of that. Not all of that. Some of that is just from her common sense, from her own experience as a teacher. Right? And from what she thinks might work, and maybe from some professional development courses and so on. Now in Jamaica we have a program that's starting to train principals, but we didn't have that before. So we have a program, a whole institution that's being developed to certify principals. Because if you're a principal of a school, you have to run not only the plant, which could be a small, medium, or large-scale business type planned, depending on how many students you have. You have to deal with your teachers, you have to deal with the parents, and you have to deal with the children. You have to deal with the ancillary staff. It's a lot of work. I would never want to be a principal, personally. I couldn't manage it. I know myself well enough. I couldn't manage it. Yeah, you do, Jason. No way. But that principal, those teachers in that school know that that principal supports them. And she is on top of them. She regularly goes into the classroom. She's not the principal who just sits in her office. Goes into the classrooms, watches those teachers teaching, asks them questions, asks them, why did you do it that way? Could you have tried it this way? What do you think worked well? What do you think didn't work well? How can I help you? Because she wants her students to get the best possible opportunities that they can. This is not a well-endowed school. This is not a private school. This is a public school with probably 1,000 children. Ronington Town Primary is the name of the school. We should go on a field trip, but then you guys couldn't come. Right? And I think that that is the case. I think that there are cases of those schools, yes, in all of our countries. But we don't hear about those schools in the media. No. We don't. Because good news, that's not really interesting news. So it's not sensationalized. The fact that there are people like this principal doing their thing every day all around the country, and in your country, and in your country, and in your country, it's not going to go into the papers. But could these people be valuable to teacher training courses? They certainly could. Teacher training programs. What she does are numerous examples of best practices that need to be written down and shared broadly. Not only necessarily in Jamaica, but in the region. And she would benefit from that type of sharing too, from other similar principals and teachers. As a teacher, when you make a decision to teach in a school, you need to know what kind of principal you're going to be working with. Because that's going to affect your work. In a huge way. Right? You don't have any, you can't change the type of principal, but you should certainly be thinking about it when you're doing your interviews. Right? And then if you decide to go on to become a principal, you have to remember that yourself. Right? All right, so you guys covered most of the main, when you do some research on roles of teachers, these categories that you came up with are pretty much cover all of them. They may use some different words. One big word that is used in a few articles that I've read is diagnostician, which means that they find out the needs of the students and they plan accordingly. Diagnostician. So teaching is not only about imparting the material, right? It's about understanding the students as best as you can, or at least caring and trying, and then figuring out how best can I share the material I'm meant to teach. I can share it in this way today, and tomorrow when I'm reviewing it, I can do it a different way, right? So that I bring in different types of learners. Well, I'm not saying that you're diagnosing learning challenges. They're saying that you're just aware that you're thinking about the needs of the students. Over the years, this has evolved, In the 1990s, the buzzword in teaching was all about group work and collaborative learning. Tons and tons of projects were done on how important it is to teach children to work collaboratively and to create mixed ability groups so that all the children are not homogeneous in terms of their ability, and the stronger ones can help the weaker ones and vice versa. And it builds social skills as well as academic skills. Now, the buzzwords are more on empowerment of the student and empowerment of the teacher, teacher as facilitator, rather than a teacher as the person who's just imparting all the information in a one-way discussion. Right? Now teaching is about, much more so in the last probably 30 years, much more is being written about how important it is as a teacher to be constructivist, to be experiential, to build on the students' experiences, to build on your own experiences, how all together we're a community of learners, and therein comes the empathy idea, therein comes the caring idea, and that's why these people in this article, the authors, Body, Caring and Power, are from Finland. I can't pronounce their names. Finland is very well known in education circles for being a top performing country. Why? Well, it's a socialist country, socialized, as everything is socialized. People have pretty even income levels. When you're teaching, to be able to teach, most of their teachers have master's degrees. It's not overpopulated, Finland. It's not very diverse yet, culturally. It's becoming more with immigrants. But in Finland, you can't get married, for example, unless you can prove that you're literate. Meaning, that doesn't mean you have to pass a complicated test. It probably means you have to be able to write your name and read a passage and fill out a form. But you can't get a marriage license if you can't do that. In Finland as well, the children don't go to school until they're 5 or 6. So you say, really? What do the children do? The children are at home with their parents because they have very long maternal and paternal leaves. So for a part of the time, the mother is home. Another part of the time, they're home together. Another part of the time, the father is home. And what do the Finnish children do? They take advantage of parks, museums, libraries, playgroups, and all those kinds of out-of-school experiences that stimulate learning and are based on the concept of play. Then they start formal school at age 5, 6. They do very well. Finland has done so well that in many studies, it comes out among one of the top performing countries in the world. Finland, Singapore, those are the ones that always appear. And Finland has developed its own sort of system of education tourism, where people from other countries go to Finland to study their system and try to figure out, what are you all doing over here? Why can't we do it where we are from? Why don't you guys come over here and help us? So they've developed what's called education tourism in Finland. We are far from that. So in this article, they were looking at people's memories of their teachers. So not necessarily talking to people right as they're in the class with the teacher, but what do you remember about your teachers? Which teachers were most memorable for you? And why? What did that teacher do? So I'd like to ask you in the next 10 minutes to work with a partner, somebody sitting next to you or in front of you, and just have that conversation and write down a few of the points that emerge. This is called a pair share. Pair, P-A-I-R, as well as pair, P-E-E-R. Share, right? Where you talk to each other about, think about a teacher that was memorable for you and tell your partner. It'll be 3 of you in that row. No, you have to work with the young man. So, why was the teacher memorable? What did the teacher do? Okay? Why do you remember this teacher? Everybody in each country is going to do this. And everybody, at least one person, one pair from each country will share what they say. Okay, Dominica? Okay, Cynthia? Yes. Okay, and Bermuda? And Montego Bay. Start now. We have 10 minutes. Why? Who's the teacher that you remember and why? Easy. That's fine. Let me share.
One teacher. Has to be just for one.
I would say my 6th grade primary school teacher. She was the one who really much of the time common and you know the word.
Smarts. Yeah, ordinary, but a good memory.
How you doing?
Yeah, she told me I was smart.
Well, like a gummy bear, or you were allowed like one gummy bear or one jelly bean if you did like exceptionally well on your special.
I said memorable teacher. It doesn't have to be your favorite teacher. It can be your favorite teacher if that's the most memorable teacher, but I said memorable. So that could be positive or negative.
Part of my total paragraph.
One teacher that I remember most is one Mr. Anderson. I think he taught me here He was a very strict
Yeah.
teacher.
You can remember him? I don't remember him.
He stands really for discipline. If you just come in, take a seat, do your work. I remember maths in particular, I was very good at maths. And when you put the maths and the bonus and stuff in the maths, you can to play around with the student. What I need to don't get me because I'm finished my work. I haven't finished my work, something like that. So like I'm taking the math task. No one had to look at what he was supposed to provide extra work for me because like I was bored.
Pick your
But he
favorite.
was so strict. It's different thing before I remember. Anything in those days is expensive for me. Come to school later, know something, expand. Ask Christian, you don't know. Ask Christian, you don't know. Respond to do something like very Christian person. You just try to keep people on task at all time. I was the one that was on task. Yeah.
Oh no.
To the left.
Yeah.
Right hand. There was another teacher, I remember, the one name was White.
So you guys, my partner, he's already discussed things so far, so you guys can have this time. Only one of us can talk. See why 6 inches, Jason?
You remember your name quite well.
Yes, I teach us
There's
that.
not that many guys.
No, guy.
No, there's a guy.
Oh, you mean in general? Yeah, like I thought you meant just here.
Yeah, no,
Samuel.
Yeah, is it
I don't
Samuel?
know. There's a lot of other guys in Kingston.
Samuel,
but
Dexter.
His name was Dexter. I can remember him from.
That was the
Bay.
one from today. He thought that. Yeah, he was the
From
first
Montego
one that
Bay?
spoke. Yeah, Montego
Oh, okay.
Bay. You know
I
what I
didn't
do
remember
wish they
his
do?
name,
I wish in UWI they would keep their chairs still and stop coming in and out of the room. Is it?
I noticed about in and out of the room. I didn't notice the chairs, but
Well, I don't know if it's the doors or the chairs, but it's please stop.
yeah.
Either that
But it doesn't
or
really
the
bother me
mic
much,
is
but-
right by the door. But they need to stop.
So who's going
My
to
hearing's
know
not good
when they
enough.
ask?
I think she said only one. She was only gonna pick one of the countries. Even like I don't think.
Yeah, one from each.
Oh, I thought she meant
Mm.
just one. Oh.
I don't really have anything really outstanding.
Me too.
Jennifer Mansfield? Jennifer Mansfield? No. She became.
Jennifer Howard. No, Jennifer Howard was her daughter.
Okay, so I was thinking, yeah, Mansfield. Okay.
I was Howard too. But Jennifer Howard, and she was really involved.
I would be Mr. Hart. You, Mr. Hart?
Mm-hmm.
He would be probably my pick for high school.
You come in and like you'd be like, what I was doing, both eyebrows.
Seriously?
I can remember our chemistry teacher. I remember you could tell she was drunk. She would smell of alcohol and cigarettes.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Parents to say that they needed to tell me to stop pretending not understand lessons. And they were sent with lower calculations because we kind of wanted to do it in half term. My parents did it, apparently, I think the cancer. The lower calculations not this thing. My sister happened to be dating somebody who was the parent.
okay.
Luckily, my office matched up with what we pretended.
Oh yeah.
So he would like to see there's a, by the way, you have to draw wrong, here's how you do it, and she actually got it right.
Oh wow. Oh man.
Because I always share. So.
Why were those people? Why did
Seems
you
to me
pick
I'm
one?
just, I guess it's
Seems to
just,
stand out.
she's just so giving. That doesn't
Outgoing.
mean- That's not really a description, is it? I don't know. It
You
was
mean
like,
like 'cause
I was a
they-
kid. I liked her. How do you say you like him here? I liked her. She was a kid. We had her for 1 year and she came in. I still see her. Like she still does. I tell you, she volunteers at Pembroke Primary. She's showing good her sister.
Oh.
She's been for a while, but she's probably been someone as an adult I'd like to go.
So it's just she's just an interesting person. It's just
Yeah.
that made you interested in her.
But I mean, I'm only picking it because I'm forcing you, or we volunteered you.
Bermuda's ready?
Bermuda's ready. Bermuda is another world.
Crazy. That's nice. A musical interlude. Dominica's ready? Everybody ready? We're gonna start now.
Ready.
Let's start with Dominica. I hope you can hear me.
Dominica, we are here.
Okay, can you share your memorable teachers? There you are. God bless Craig. Thank you.
I have to share mine now.
No, just
share
share.
yours. Go ahead.
Okay, I remember when I was in grade 3. Yes, my teacher, that was Mrs. Alexis, and what I remember is that there was a time she gave us a mathematical question, and well, the children that she called to answer the question, they really couldn't do it. But then after break, we had to go back to the question. And I was the first person who got it right. And then in front of the class said, Rosalyn is the smartest person in the class. Wow. And I remember lifted me up.
Yes. All right, so your memory is a positive one. I'm going to keep score, actually. That's one positive. Okay, thank you. Your colleague's memory?
Oh, my colleague.
Okay, yeah. What came to mind was I was in grade 3 also, like Rosalind, and my teacher was passing by. As he got to the front of my house, he stopped, and he told my mom that I'm very intelligent, brilliant, that she should take good care of me. And I'm telling you, is what he said, stay with me. And anytime I'm having challenges academically, I just normally remember that when I didn't know myself, for my teacher to be passing by and stopped and came to my mom and told my mommy that, it really helped me psychologically, that no matter what I was going through when I was in high school, university, just normally keep coming to me that you are brilliant, you are intelligent, don't give up.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Oh, my little friend Zoe's there. Hey, Zoe. Hi.
Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. All right.
Hello.
Let's have your two. Last two from Dominica.
Okay,
So far, you're two positives.
Well, mine is also positive. My 4th and 5th form food and nutrition teacher, she was, I figure she was the best teacher I have had. So far, she was down to earth. She was real. She would bring everything to you like It was ABC. Everything was simple with her. So any topic she taught in food and nutrition became easy for us.
All right. So she was an interesting teacher.
Very interesting.
Okay, thank you. And your colleague? Mind
yeah.
of your name?
And okay, my favorite one was nun, called Sister Paul, and she was so radical. I remember she didn't wear the hat, but she took out the hat part, and she had her hair styled in this nice modern style as a nun. And I remember her. She was every place, everywhere, always busy, and she taught religion and life skills. And the thing about her was that you felt all the time that she liked you and you alone. She had this way of making everybody feel special. And she was a fantastic manager. I mean, when she was the principal of the school also. I mean, everything turned around. I mean, and she was so generous. And her favorite phrase was, to those who much is given, much is expected. Wow. So she used to just spoil you, but then she demanded just as much from you. And I like that. It made me a generous person in the belief that you should give and people will rise to the occasion.
Right, that's a life lesson. You see, so far your memories have to do more with life lessons than any particular subject that you were taught. So that's a point I'd like to make. Right, so that tells you the impact of teaching. And so much time working on the subject that we're teaching, that sometimes these interpersonal skills and this interpersonal sharing can be neglected. Thank you very much, Dominica. Let's go to Montego Bay.
You're welcome.
Montego Bay, you're up.
Okay, well, my most memorable teacher is my grade 5 teacher. In grade 5, we were preparing for the common entrance exam. And I felt that she was not emotionally attached to the students, or especially me. Because I was a shy student, I don't think she truly understood me, nor did she try to get me to rise above any expectation at all that I had for myself. So I remember one day when we had parent-teachers conference, and my mother was meeting with her, and my mother brought me there to listen to what the teacher had to say about me. And I remember her saying nothing positive. Wow. Absolutely nothing. And it was a shocker, because even my mother asked me, how is it she had nothing good to say about you, yet you always come home and do your homework before I even tell you to? You know, I had enough interest in my class, but what really got to me was that she told me that my neighbor was going to pass the common entrance and I would not. And, you know, at the end of the year, I did pass, my neighbor did not. But even as a teacher, I tell myself, I will never ever make an assumption about a student, nor will I put down any of my students. I will try to encourage and motivate instead of writing off and saying, you know, you're not going to pass. Right. And so she's one of my most memorable teachers, because I really did hate her for a while.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay? Your partner?
Hi.
Dexter.
One of my most memorable teachers, it was in primary school. His name was Mr. Thompson. He didn't teach, he never taught me per se, but he was when I was in infant school, all my teachers were female. When I just met him in grade 1, he told me he was a teacher. And I was surprised. I said, men can't be teachers. As up to that point, I've never seen a male teacher. but for me, he modeled manhood. He was very strict. He had a leather strap called, I think his name is Sparrow. Yes. And if your student didn't get the questions right, he'll make you sing. He'll make you sing. Yeah? Sparrow. Oh yes. Big leather belt. Oh my. And it was funny to see him work Sparrow. Yeah, it was funny at the time. But he represented authority, and I respect the man a lot. For me personally, I never got to taste Sparrow. Yeah, but I remember walking from school with him and talking with him. So it was like a role model to me, someone who is strict and stern.
So for you, it was a role model. Yes. Right. I'm not gonna talk about the corporal punishment because that's gonna just get me way off track today.
All right.
And that would be another day. But right. So both you had one negative and one positive.
Yes.
One of the things that's always interested me, the way teachers work, and I think perhaps.
Excuse me, please. I think there's echo in it. You can't hardly hear you.
Okay, is that Mobe? Mobe, can you? Thank you. Thank you for that, Bermuda. Got it, yes. Okay. One of the things that I've always found interesting, and I don't know if it's just that teacher preparation courses have not shared this idea, because maybe more people would do it. You know, the only time parents really hear from teachers, other than PTA meetings, if you can go, and make the time to go and work it out so that you go, which some parents can't do, and some parents don't go because they're not interested. But I like to believe most parents are interested, although I know that might be a little bit idealistic. You only hear from the teachers, by and large, when the children are doing something has gone wrong. They're getting a frown note in primary school, or they're getting reprimanded in secondary school for something that they've done wrong. They're not doing their homework, they haven't turned it in, or they're making too much noise in class, they're being disrespectful, they have hit some other child, or some other child has been pushed, or whatever it is, right? But there is such a thing as a happy gram, or a happy note. There's nothing that says teachers can't send home positive messages. To say to the, that can't be because of what I just said, that must be something on the to say to the parents, you know, Mary did really well in class today. She got all her spelling words right, and I know that she was having trouble with a few of them, and she did really well. Or, John did very well today. He shared his pencils. You didn't even have to be asked for it. I'm talking about younger children here now, obviously. But something as simple as that. Think of how it would lift the spirits of the child and make the parent perhaps feel a little bit more open to the teacher, because some parents are intimidated by the teachers, and that's another reason why they don't come, or they don't speak to the teacher regularly, or they don't come to PTA meetings. So a simple thing like that can make a world of difference. I mean, obviously you're not going to send them home every week, because then they wouldn't have any value. But you pick your moments, and you don't only send the negative ones, because the ones who get the negative ones, they get them a lot. Right? So the parents are just, oh, it's another one again. We have to go talk to the principal again. You know, and then imagine what happens to that child. And sometimes it's not necessarily always the child's fault, you know. It's just that that child was the last one seen, and the teacher says, okay, well, it's Bruce's fault. That happens because the teacher's not going to spend time to go through the long discussion when she has 25 other children. Right? Okay, I'm going to move to Kingston. Let's start in the back. Okay, can we turn the camera to them and away from me? Thank you, Craig. Okay. There we are. Lady in blue and black.
Okay, my most memorable experience with
Craig, that's impressive.
With a teacher was in college. I was doing a course entitled Psychology of Learning, and this teacher is one who is very religious, so she would engage the class in a prayer session or a little devotion, a mini devotion before class. And I developed a good respect for her because of that, and I always paid attention in class. But the most memorable, the reason why she stood out in my mind, she stands out even now, is because she offers rewards when an assignment is done on time, or there is all the other students are giving are having issues and there is one that stands out. She always tries to reward that person who is outstanding. So that makes her memorable to me.
Right, and that links back to a line in the reading in this particular article where they're saying that based on some of the, when you do research, you gather a lot of data from a feasible sample, and then you look for patterns. This is qualitative research. This is not quantitative, because this is based on people's memories, not fact. Okay? So, in this case, one of the first points that they make is that the teachers seem to care. The teachers that were remembered were teachers who seemed to care not only for the child, who he or she was at that moment in the memory, but for who the child might become.
Okay.
So that's the kind of possibilities, caring. Thank you. Your partner.
Hi everyone. My most memorable teacher was when I was in high school. I normally sat at the back of the class and chat or sleep. I didn't do much work.
And you're still at the back of the class, so you might have to worry about that.
Yeah, what hasn't changed. And, well, firstly, she put me at the front of the class.
Right.
So that I wouldn't chat, but I slept. And then I remember when there was a time now which we were to do I think it was the SBA for the A-level bio thing. I don't remember what it was, but I made up my mind, so I'm not going to do anything. I don't like working. So when it was time to submit the SBA, we had gotten the whole year to do it, and I, of course, did nothing. And Miss Blake said to me, Nadira, I'm going to give you 2 days to come to start it, finish it, and submit it. And she said, I said, Miss Blake, I can't do it. And she said, you can't do anything. You're just lazy. So I did it, and at the end of the day, out of the 12 of us who took it, only 3 of us passed, and I got the highest grade. So from then, and she spoke with me after, and she said, Nadira, you just need to focus. And from then, I always, anytime anything is difficult for me to do, I said, well, if I can't just do 1 year SBA in a couple of days, in 2 days, I can't do anything. So that was really memorable for me.
So she taught you a lesson about yourself?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving up to the next row, Ashley and Ingrid. You go first.
Good evening. My most memorable teacher was not because of feelings such as caring, empathy, and so on, but because of how she delivered the subject area. She was a teacher who was very knowledgeable about her subject area, and she did not only stick to the content that was prescribed, but she would introduce us to other things about the subject. Was a Spanish teacher, really. So she taught us not just the language, but she taught us the culture.
But she had a passion for what she was teaching, which is a critical component of a good teacher.
And therefore, we became more interested in the language because we were learning about the culture and about the people, and therefore the language just came more alive to us, so we just did better.
Oh, thank you. Ashley?
I think similarly, some of my favorite teachers are teachers who are so intelligent and in such command of their subject matter that they inspired me to do more research, to write better papers, and so on. But I also think that for all those teachers, there are also teachers who were very negative to us students, even when we were doing well. And some people I know hate them up to now for that, and some people, and luckily I call myself among them, have actually feel like that helped because it made me tougher and more resilient.
Yes, there's 2 ways that can work. It can totally, you can just give in and say, forget it, I can't be bothered, who cares? Or you can say, I'm not going to let this person talk to me like that. I'm better than this, and I'm going to show this person, right? So this depends on what kind of, how your nature reacts to it. I had an experience like one of my most memorable teachers is a chemistry teacher who was Indian, and I can't do her accent. But she used to have a habit of asking a question, and then she'd start from one side of the room, and she would work around to see who would get the answer. And so the people on, so if she started over here, the people on this side would now be trying to figure out what is the answer. Because if you didn't get the answer right by the time she came around, it was a long discussion of how stupid we all were, and how the Cambridge man was going to give us a big zero on the paper, and what a waste of time it is for her to be here, and so on and so forth. And then there were about 2 of us in the class who usually she would wait for the end to ask the question. And so the other students now would be saying, listen, you all need to know the answer because she's coming to you last. So do you know the answer? So this is extra pressure put on the 2 of us. And if one of us was not there, it was just left to the one. And then it would come to that. And then if we got it wrong, it was a big disaster. And half of the class was taken up with, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so got it wrong. You all, I can believe it. But what happened? Oh no! If you can't get it right, what is going to happen when you take the test? The test is only 2 months away. You all are not paying much attention that you need to this chemistry. And chemistry is such an important subject. And so what happened to the 2 of us now? We get extra work, everybody gets extra homework, and the rest of the class is saying, you see, because you didn't know the answer, you 2 have made us have to do more work, and we said, but it's not our fault, you all didn't know the answer either. No, it's okay, you need to know it. It's okay if we don't know it, but she expects you to know it. So we were put under extra pressure, right? So the teacher not only criticized the whole class, she put certain students under extra peer pressure, right? No, that we couldn't get it wrong. So, and I remember that because it was stressful to be in that class, especially if you didn't know the answer for that day. So, well, I mean, by and large, she was a good teacher, but that was just one thing. She herself was very stressed about making sure that everybody was going to do well on this test, and she couldn't understand why some students just couldn't follow what she was doing on the board. She just couldn't relate to why it was they couldn't get whatever formula she was doing or whatever. So, you 3, you're one group, right?
No, we are.
Oh yes, 2. You 2. I have to go quicker, faster.
All right. Good evening. My most memorable teacher would be Miss Cameron from grade 5. She is the one that stands out the most because she's the one that helped me to know that I could do well and I can do well, and as a result of that, that motivation.
So that's a recurring theme, right? Yeah. This is a recurring theme in some of your memories, and that actually speaks more to the phrase that they use in the article, which is encounter. Rather than just teaching or teaching at, the teaching is an encounter. There's an exchange between the 2 of you, and it's built not only around the subject matter, but around your own self-esteem. And that is such a critical part of teaching, which we seem to do better at with younger children. And then as the children get older, you don't see that emphasis placed as much. Because we have more work to do, we need to work, right? Yes?
One teacher that I remember was my high school English literature teacher, Mrs. Bennett. And I remember 2 things about her. One, she was very excited. She loved English literature. And
right, like Ingrid's teacher, she was passionate about her subject, and Ashley's the one she mentioned.
Right, and also because I have this trait where I always have a different opinion from everybody else, she understood that
and encouraged.
And yes, and she allowed me to express my opinion.
Rather than shooting you down.
Rather than saying, yeah.
Hi, Celia again. My most memorable, well, first of all, I heard a lot of people talking about primary school, and my issue was high school.
High school. A few people have mentioned high school.
High school was amazing and awesome and fabulous. But my most memorable teacher was a teacher named Mr. Layton in grade 12. And I was sharing with Courtney that he was memorable for 2 reasons. First, he was male and easy on the eyes and rode a motorbike and was young in an all-girls school, and so he wasn't sitting behind the desk, he was crouched on the end of the desk talking, and you know, you'd hear that because he was a part-time teacher riding on a motorbike and everybody all aflutter. So he was young and cool, and what is he doing teaching?
Right, yes.
And then he knew his stuff. He never opened the book and pulled out a lesson plan, and yeah, I'm sure he had them somewhere, but he opened his things to give us handouts or to say this is the book. He knew the math so well, it was shocking. At the time, I was repeating 12th grade, so I was going through the whole, oh my gosh, I'm repeating, this is so awful. And I made a habit of sitting at the very, very front of the class so I wouldn't have to interact with these girls behind me who were not my friends. And so he noticed that a couple times and picked up on it right away and asked me why I was doing that. And I said, something flippant, you know when you're 17 and you think you know everything. Oh, sorry, you wouldn't understand, I'm repeating. And he said, oh, so you think you're the only one to ever repeat? And my jaw, I'm sure they must have had to scoop it up because I was saying, wait, he's cool, he's young, he's a teacher, he's successful. Wait, successful people fail too? How is that possible? And it was just an amazing year, and at the end I got an A, and even now I seriously fangirl when I see him at Soca Fets. Soca Fets. Soca Fets, a teacher.
Yes.
Right, so.
So that also brings to the point that this teacher also revealed his true personality to his students. Some teachers don't do that. And that's another part of the encounter, and making the encounter be real. That's what the teacher in the movie did. And that's part of the respect.
Definitely.
Courtney.
Yes.
Oh, you have to come over
I know.
Okay.
Zoom in.
Yeah, Courtney's the name. The teacher that stands out the most in my mind is my 6th grade primary school teacher. Her name was Miss Gaynor. And the reason why, she was a good teacher overall, but she was like one of those teachers that we mentioned earlier that had different expectations of students. And what she would do is she grouped each student in a particular group based on the expected outcome that she perceived those students would have. And I remember I was in Group A, and in Group A, her determination was that no one in that group should get less than 90. And I remember specifically one day we got a test, and that day I happened to have gotten 89. And I was like really expecting this woman to come around and say, wow, you know, you almost got the mark. I remember that day I got a serious whooping. I told you nothing less than 90. And I really mean, I was like, how comes these other persons down there get 50s, 60s? I don't see them getting any beating, but I've been flogged. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, we passed the common entrance and all that. But I think in general, just that memory told me that, listen to me, this woman was a strict disciplinarian.
Yeah.
As I say, she was overall a good teacher, but that stood out the most to me.
But that also speaks to expectations. Interestingly, the only person that has mentioned how the teacher looked was Thalia. Whereas one of the things in the article that emerges as one of their findings is that the pupils, because they're interviewing college students about their memories of their teachers. So those memories, some of them are related to how the teacher looked or smelled or spoke. Because it's a visceral thing, you know, you're in a classroom with somebody day in, day out. How they present themselves gives you an idea of the type of person they are. And so in the movie, she kind of lets her hair down a little bit after the beginning, but she keeps her pearls, because her pearls to her have a different meaning than you might think the meaning, you know, you might misunderstand. Her meaning was a gift from her father, and she's close to her father, so to her, it had that meaning. It wasn't that she was trying to be stush and wear the pearls, right? Which harkens back, there's a terrific anthropologist called Irving Goffman, sociologist, sorry. And what he did was, he talks about interaction and the way that symbols can be used as part of interaction. Interaction is not only verbal, it's also non-verbal. And what we have to be careful of, and when we're trying to do that kind of work of understanding other people's or other cultures or how people interact in society. If I do this to you, Courtney, or I do this to you, Jason, what did I just do? Ashley, Davey, what did I do? I winked. Now, I could wink at Davey because I'm trying to send a message to Davey about whatever. I could wink because I'm wearing contact lenses and I have something in my eye. I could wink because I have a twitch and my eye just blinks every so often. But unless you know the context as to why I did this, You can't judge. And that's what the students did with that teacher initially, you know, the way she looked, they made a judgment call. But when you're doing that kind of research, or even as a lesson in society, I always love that wink example because it's very easy to understand, right? So some simple thing like a wink could mean so many other things. You two ladies, quickly. You remember I lost like a half an hour of this class, so I'm trying to. All right. Sonia.
The teacher that stands out to me most is my A-level literature and general paper teacher. She was an older woman who was very effervescent, and her attitudes defied her physical look. So we dubbed her Bashment Eddie. Because she was a lady close to her 60s. And as I grew old and I learned, I understand that her method of teaching was very constructivist. So she would allow us to bring our real life experience to the classroom.
And to what you were reading.
And to what we were reading. Because
some subjects lend themselves to that better than others, but literature would be one of those.
Right, but persons would ask, why would you want to study literature? But it was real to us. We could identify, we could share. And she allowed us that platform. And so her role was mostly to facilitate and to guide, not to just tell.
But you were also interested in the subject, the way she taught it.
Absolutely.
That's why you remember her.
And the thing about it too was that she held just a platform she gave us all. Is she helped to build our confidence and a real passion for oral and written communication of all forms. And even when the classes were over, any day we had her, it would extend to the sixth form students' lounge, where we'd listen to Babatunde and analyze Babatunde all evening long.
Yeah. So again, the self-esteem point.
Well, for me,
it's going to be primary school.
Yes.
Yes.
I was in grade 1.
Teacher's primary school, so I'm just teasing.
I was in grade 1, and my teacher wanted me to be a part of a function. However, my mom, being a Christian, never wanted me to be a part of this concert thing. So my teacher, loving me, I was like the star of the class. And she just took me home, dressed me up in her daughter's clothes, and I went and performed at the concert. Up until now, my mother doesn't know. Guess what? I performed a shiny glass, trouble to a man, and I was dressed in glasses, lipstick, high shoes, big belt, and I did have a lovely time.
All right, so that's positive. It's interesting that the memories are more positive than negative. Sometimes when I do this, you get more negative than positive. These three, and then we're going to Bermuda. Yes.
Okay, the teacher that I remember, we used to call her macaroni head. Now,
because her
hair, she was blonde, and her hair always, you know, twisted and very curly, very curly, and all that. She taught me geography in 5th form, and let me tell you, 4th and 5th form. When this woman teaches geography, it's like you don't remember that you have exams and those things. All you're doing is you're waiting on lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. She lets you know when there's gonna be full moon. She make you fall in love with the beach.
She made it come alive.
She just made you fall in love with the beach. You're in love with the river, and so even now I need to know. I need to check my calendar to mark off for full moon and all of those things because that was just her. And you know, I didn't even really have to do much studying. Yes, geography has a lot of reading, but because she just make you love the subject. And guess what? You know, most of our exams, or all of our exams, we passed. Like, we just did well.
Yeah, so that's
we would
awesome.
laugh and just have a grand time in her class. And guess what? You see, when my birthday came, and she would wear some beautiful earrings to class. When my birthday came, my 16th or 15th, I don't remember, she bought me an earring. And even though I still have it, and I'm like, how did she know I loved earrings? Because I was so in love with earrings, and I still have it.
Right, so that's a teacher who pays attention, and you remember that because she did something personal for you, life for you, but also her love of the subject carried over into making it not even seem like she was really working. Yeah. That's not easy to do. You have to really be passionate, but you also have to know your stuff. Yeah. You can't go in there and wing it. You have to know your stuff. Yeah, exactly. All right, Davey, you're up.
Well, I guess I'm going to depart here from, all these
positive.
The teachers or teachers who taught a particular subject. This teacher, he wasn't one of my core subject teachers. He actually taught up the school. He was a maths teacher, Mr. Milverton Brooks. We were in third form. Fairly young guy, was 10 or so years ahead of us. And like Taylor's person, he had a
motorcycle.
Yeah, a Suzuki.
My math teacher had a motorcycle.
He had a Suzuki 250, and at that age, boys are
paying attention.
Yeah, all for it. But he used to come to our class for extra sessions when we didn't have teachers. My class was at the
unruly. Yeah.
It was rowdy.
Can you say?
And he would come and he would relate to us, as a mentor. He passed on this love of maths, and not only would speak to us about life, give us his life stories, and generally guided us. So we would actually, I look forward to his coming. I would boy, I wish Miss Clark would come today.
Right. So that's an example of engaged teaching and learning. So the teacher is engaged with his subject, but is also engaged with his students. Your example too. That's really powerful, and I don't think that can be taught. You have to really want to do that. Yes. Last but not least, and then Bermuda, Jason.
Favorite moment.
You have to speak up.
You have to look at that. Yeah.
My memorable moment with my teacher was Mr. Douglas. He taught me maths, but it wasn't the maths that I remember about me. It was more of the way he related to me in terms of
which is a theme. You see how strong the theme is, and I would like to hypothesize it. If you went out and did a box pop, or you did a larger survey, you would see similar things coming up. That people are remembering the teachers for not necessarily this particular subject or the actual lessons that you were taught, but how you interacted, and what the effect of that interaction, whether it be positive or negative, was on you. Okay, Bermuda, thank you. Bermuda.
Yes, Ashley here from Bermuda.
Hi, Ashley.
My most memorable teacher was a P4, primary 4 teacher, who seemed really old at the time. She had a round frame and all gray hair. And she was usually very strict, very stern. She didn't have a lot of patience for us young folk, and she even went as far as canceling our lunch time to make sure that we get our times tables, our multiplication tables, effectively memorized, in our mind. And that happened for about 2 or 3 months, which I think is pretty torturous, not being able to go outside for lunch break at such a young age. And
so yours is a negative memory.
I mean, she was one of my favorite teachers. She was stern, but if you did what she wanted, then you get rewards. So for all the people who did well on their spelling bee, you'd get a jelly bean, or you'd get a break. You get to take a break or whatever. So she did favor some of the children who obviously cared to excel for whatever reason, even if it was just enough to get a jelly bean. And I still see her. She's still a
teacher.
No, she's not a teacher anymore. I still see her. She looks younger than I remember.
It's the
Now.
students.
Well, you know what? I think you raise an important point, which is power. The whole element of power in the classroom. So it's a fine line between classroom management and order and power and abuse of that power. And they touch on that to some extent in that article, meaning you have the authority. You're the authority in the classroom. And obviously it's easier with younger children than it is with older. As they get older, it gets harder to maintain that authority. But teaching is a very powerful position, because not only in terms of how you interact socially, in terms of self-esteem and how you can either support it or diminish it, development of a person's self-esteem, you also have the power of how you present the material. And you have to be careful that you don't present your opinions as fact. So if you're teaching a subject like history, and you present the topic in a way which is your opinion, but that might not necessarily be status quo or something like that, the children are impressionable. And so there's a responsibility there, a moral responsibility. Now you can present the material and then you can say, what I think about this particular period of history is this, but that's my opinion. My task is for you to develop your opinions and be able to back up your opinions. I can back up my opinion with X, Y, Z, and I want you to use your minds. Don't just take what I'm saying verbatim. You have to think, question. Because history, what is history? History is the way people have written down what happened in the past. So, that's a particular subject that would be open to interpretation, and can explain the power idea. So, not only do you have the power over how you speak to the children or how you interact with the children. Because, if I'm teaching a class, if this class was very noisy, right? Not that that would happen with adults so much. But if it was very noisy, I could raise my voice louder and say, stop it, be quiet. Don't you know, I don't have to be here teaching, I'm tired myself, and I know it's the end of the day, and I know it's late, and you're hungry, and blah, blah. Just be quiet. I might even tell you to shut up. Right, which some teachers say, which is not good, because that's not good role modeling. Another way to do it would just be to walk over quietly, calmly, to the area where the noise is taking place, and just by your presence alone, they stop. Because they know that you've come over near them, and they don't want you to look too closely at what they're doing. If they're doing something else, you just take it. You don't have to criticize the student and make a big deal out of it. You can speak to the student after class. But just by your body movements, you've stopped the problem. You've quieted down without shouting and screaming at everybody. Okay? That's a technique I wish more of our teachers would learn, because I hear a lot of shouting and screaming when I go to schools. That's not necessarily productive, shouting and screaming. All right, thank you, Ashley. Who was your partner? Or who did you talk to in Bermuda? Is it Jason? No? Can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
I have two teachers. They are very short. The first one is Mr. Anderson. I think he taught me in grade 8 and grade 9. I can remember in maths I was very good at maths, and I would finish my work very quickly. As he put it up on the board, I would finish it up. And then I would be so bored, I start to play with the other students. And I remember one day in class, he told the student not to play with me because I'm finished with my work already. But now when I look back, I was thinking he should have extra work for students who work fast and who can do things, But I was so bored in that class, I just finished work and start giving trouble. Right. And he was a very strict person, and he was nice too. He was a Christian person. I admired that about him. He would come in. But one thing I couldn't understand, he was always laughing to himself.
It's the students, the age you and them are due.
Yeah, but you raise an important point. That point is important, that, if he had taken a little time to know his students better, then he could have brought that kind of extra activities, or had you perhaps go and help other students rather than causing trouble in the classroom.
Right.
So that's a lesson for you or for anybody going into teaching, that you have to prepare for a whole group of range of learners that you're teaching, because you're not always going to get a homogeneous classroom. So some kids will do better at some subjects than others, and while you have to big them all up, because you want to big them all up, you don't want to push anybody down, you have to have tricks that you can bring out and say, okay, you finished, you go and work with Matthew, let's see how quickly you and Matthew can finish that assignment. Or you finish, okay, you can sit and read. Or are you finished, I have a bag of tricks, come up here and pick something out of this to do. Which can work all the way up, right? I mean, obviously the activities change as you get older. But definitely, that takes planning. But that, in the long run, it stops a child from probably becoming a behavior issue, because he's bored. A bored child is one of the worst things you can have at any age. At any age. Thank you. Last few from Bermuda.
My chemistry teacher from upper 4th through lower 6th.
Can you speak a little louder?
Or
come closer to the mic. There we go.
My chemistry teacher from upper
Great.
4th to lower 6th. He was a big grizzly bear man with more hair in his eyebrows than on the rest of his head. And his eyebrows actually used to come out over his safety goggles. And we used to take bets as to how long it would go in between him blowing up his eyebrows.
Okay, so you remember a particular feature of your teacher. All right, yeah.
He routinely lost his eyebrows in acid explosions. He was colorblind, and he had real problems with the labels on the bottles and was constantly mixing together things that shouldn't have been mixed together.
Oh,
so
no.
he actually had a safety screen over the front of his bench so that whatever he blew up wouldn't affect the rest of the class.
That's a good memory. That's interesting. Okay. Thank you. That's kind of comical. That's a comedic memory. All right, last two.
I don't really have any strong memories of any teachers. I remember a lot of my teachers, but for me, I was more interested in school being over. My outside life was much more active.
Right, that's a fair answer. That's interesting. That means perhaps none of your teachers seem to have impacted you as perhaps they could have. All right, that's the kind of thing I think my son would say. Jason.
For me, I think my most memorable teacher would be Mr. Hart, who was my high school history teacher. And he just really, he was like very strict and, you know, authoritative, I guess, but he also had like a really good relationship with the students. Like he would just make jokes and be real friendly with us, but at the same time he maintained the professional relationship. But then also with his teaching with regards to like writing essays in history, I remember he helped me to get a concept of like synthesis with like writing the conclusion and organizing the essay, I guess. I feel like that's helped me in my, you know, writing papers and stuff like that after high school, so.
Right, and so that point that you made about humor is also important. Humor goes a long way at all ages. And when you role model humor and use laughter in your classroom, it's a happier place, and people feel more safe and secure, and so more learning can take place. Last but not least, St. Lucia, you have a lot of people, now that I'm looking closely. So what I'm going to do, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because we lost about half an hour. Oh, there you are. Hello, everybody. Wow, St. Lucia has like multiplied from last year. Yes. Wow. Okay. Yes, Dominica, that means next year that's going to be you. Because it was like 3 people from St. Lucia last year. And now look at that. Okay. That's just an aside. Because we're at 7 o'clock, what I would like to do is ask you all to watch the videos for next week. The reading is on becoming a reflective teacher, and I'd like you to watch the videos that were on the syllabus for today, and those videos are kind of eclectic, but they're short and they're fun, and they talk about what is good teaching. So today we're talking about memorable teaching, and some of you mentioned good things, some of you mentioned bad things. right? And we talked about what are the roles of the teacher. So some of the good teaching characteristics are linked to the roles, right? Being a caring person, for example, one of them. And the reading today focused on a way of looking at how impactful a career teaching is. There are a lot of trite sayings about that, you know. It's the one about a light. You light a help. You light a lantern and it keeps burning forever. I can't remember. That's always used by our teachers union here. You people should know it. Anyhow, you know, like you plant a seed and the seed keeps growing. Those sort of trite sayings. But what you've done here today is prove that it's not so trite. That there are some people that have impacted your lives positively, and in some cases they have been teachers. In one case, there was nobody that really impacted that student, but maybe when she teaches, she will not want that to happen. So she will be different in her interactions with her students. You remember different things. You remember the body language, you remember how they looked, or if they were burning off their eyebrows. That's a great story. You know, or how they interacted with you on a personal basis and singled you out, made you feel special, particularly when you were younger, or saw potential in you. And that's what we react to. We react to people who react to us positive. Positive and positive makes more positive, right? So, watch the videos, read the On Becoming a Reflective Teacher piece, which I think you'll like, which talks about 3 particular characteristics of good teaching. And next week we'll start the session with St. Lucia, sharing your memories of your teachers, and then go into the good teaching section. What makes a good teacher? Okay? Everybody okay? Everybody heard me?
Okay.
All right. Thank you all for participating. Every week won't be like this where you all get to speak, but I really enjoyed hearing some of your voices and some of your thoughts. It's very hard to do this technology-wise, and you all suffer because you're the ones in front of me, but I have to try to make sure they hear me. All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Yes. Go to the back. There was one thing about human beings is they always do the same things. You know?
Yes.